Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the official Royal Rumble 2024 post show. I, of course, am your boy Ango, joined by Billy TKO. Billy,
Yes, sir.
the Royal Rumble just concluded. There's a lot to talk about. So, guys, I want you to join in on the conversation. This is going to be a very interesting one. There's things I like, there's things I didn't like. And obviously, we're going to have to talk about it. As you guys can see by the title, Cody Rhodes is a back-to-back Royal Rumble winner. Boy, do I have a lot to talk about with that. And then, of course, we had a very nice win for Bayley in the Women's Royal Rumble, plus just so much more that happened tonight. A lot of surprises, a lot of things that went down tonight that I really, really enjoyed. And then obviously there was things that I didn't like, and I have to talk about those things. As always, guys, if you want, drop a super chat. It guarantees that your question or comment will get read on the stream. Or you could become a member on the channel. Definitely appreciated. Also, there's some chat commands down below. Billy, let's just jump right into it. Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble. And I want to talk specifically about the Royal Rumble matches. But before we can do that, I want to hear from you, your personal opinion towards the pay-per-view itself. And we'll kind of work our way through with the matches.
Yeah, I mean, it's they did a really good job at pacing the show, I thought they kept it very good pace-wise. Kind of agree with you. Some things I like, some things I didn't. We'll get into the specifics in a little bit. Other than that, I mean, overall it was a good show. I'm not going to say it was the worst ever. Some things were predictable, some things weren't. But yeah, overall my thoughts are it was a good show. I'm happy. And I feel like you sent the crowd home happy.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think, it was a great pay-per-view. You could definitely see the change in presentation throughout the night from the kickoff show to the end. Even at the end with the Men's Royal Rumble, you had Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman each sitting in their own suites. Yeah. And throughout the match, it's like, oh, who are they going to go for? Which obviously Cody Rhodes made it very clear at the end of the Royal Rumble, he's going for Roman Reigns. Yeah. And the thing is, like, I want to talk about this match, but just in general, I like that sports realistic type of thing. They're showing throughout the night, people preparing for their matches, walking to the arena, that type of thing. Yeah. So they definitely did a good job from the start of the kickoff show till the end of making things feel like an important part of the show, which I appreciate. I like that element added to it.
So do
what I don't like is sometimes the booking doesn't necessarily reflect that. And I'll get more specifics as we talk about the Men's Royal Rumble match, but I kind of want to kick things off with Cody winning the Royal Rumble. Okay. Just overall, Cody, CM Punk, the final two, the way it was finished, what are your thoughts on that?
So I have my Cody Rhodes t-shirt on. So obviously I'm a supporter, and I've been a huge supporter of Cody finishing the story. It's something that I've been riling up for a long time now, and it's something that I wanted. Did I want it to go down a little bit differently? Absolutely. But I loved what they did at the end. They made CM Punk and Cody Rhodes feel like the biggest deal. And then what CM Punk said during that, where he said, it didn't take me 10 years or something along those lines to lose to Dusty's kid.
Yeah.
Just, I think that in itself, and people may not realize it right now, but those words that CM Punk said made Cody's story seem bigger than it has been this whole time. Mm-hmm. Because that's the whole story put into just a couple words. And I think CM Punk needs to, get the praise here, because he worked like a heel the whole time. I think that's something that people need to realize, is he worked like a heel the whole time. When he said that, it downplayed everything that Cody has done up until this point.
Yeah.
So Cody walking into WrestleMania now has that chip on his shoulder that everything that has happened has been completely downplayed. Now there's not a shot. He's just Dusty's kid. Yeah. He's never going to win it. He'll get this close, but he's never going to win it. So me personally, I love the idea of Cody winning the Rumble. I do think it's right. And I still believe that will get CM Punk and Seth Rollins. That's something we'll talk about later on. But
Yeah. It's interesting too, because one of the things that I really, really appreciate here more than anything,
yeah,
and I want to give a shout out to Jack Farmer on X.
okay,
Jack is somebody that was part of the live streaming program back with Twitch. So he's somebody I'm very familiar with. I keep up with his stuff. I feel like he always has great takes. But the one thing that he tweeted here that I loved was sometimes the obvious story is the best story.
and that's
And
something. Yeah,
I think this is the issue with wrestling fans for me personally. The First of all, people are delighted to see that Cody won, right?
yeah,
But I think a lot of people don't realize, for those who are against the idea of Cody winning the Rumble, just understand that the alternative is The Rock coming out at number 30, throwing out Cody and challenging Roman Reigns to WrestleMania. And for me personally, that's not something I agree with. I look at the alternatives, right? I look at what's presented to me and I look at the possibilities of what else could have happened. And, quite frankly, like Roman Reigns, and I want to talk about that match as well.
Yeah.
I love Roman Reigns as a champion. I love the bloodline storyline. I love a lot about what Roman Reigns has done. But at the same time, too, this is not a story that goes on further than WrestleMania 40. So for me, the most obvious story is the best one. Shout out to my OG viewers who remember this, because I've had a couple people reach out to me and say, wow, Ango, you were actually right. And sometimes you just have to be level-headed and you have to think a little bit logically here. Prior to WrestleMania 39, right? Prior to Cody beginning his story, that type of thing, right? Before that build, I said Cody Rhodes should go on to fight against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, lose, because he needs to face adversity. Now, what's interesting to me is how quickly I was mocked based on this adversity thing. And I can tell you by name all of the top content creators on this platform, all of the people on Twitter who responded and said, this is ridiculous, this is ridiculous, this is ridiculous. But if you look, going into WrestleMania 40, this is what I was talking about. And I remember specifically saying in a video, I said, guys, Cody's going to lose at WrestleMania 39. Cody is going to face a ton of adversity. And in addition to that, Cody will go to the WrestleMania next year by winning the Royal Rumble again. And that's exactly what has transpired. Now, I'm saying this because it goes to show you the long-term vision that WWE has had. Now, the story is not finished yet.
Nope.
That's they have to finish the story. Yep. I cannot deal with Cody winning 2 Royal Rumbles in a row only for him not to finish the story this time. And I love the idea. And this is the thing that I tell people. You got to be level-headed. You have to be a little bit more rational with this type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Would you rather have The Rock versus Roman, or would you have Cody versus Roman, Cody finishing the story at WrestleMania? And in addition to that, you can now have a full-time champion on SmackDown. Which one would you rather have?
And I think this is the argument, right? I think we look at this story and everybody, I see people in the chat, they're like, I'm over finishing the story. Again, what you just said. What is your alternative? You want The Rock back? I'm sorry. In 2024, I do not care about The Rock showing up in the WWE. I am so sorry. If you want to do it next year without the title, go ahead, because you did it with Cena without the title.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I do not care. I want a full-time champion on my show. This is WWE moving forward. That is all they're doing right here. They are moving forward. Cody is the guy. I'm comfortable with Cody being the guy. Again, like you said, the simple story sometimes is the best story.
Yeah.
It is easy said, easy done. You don't have to overdo it. I understand that people want all this excitement. And one thing I want to say is that this Royal Rumble was exciting. The problem is we listen to the internet way too damn much.
I don't. You know how I enjoy my viewing experience?
How is that, Ango?
I don't read tweets. I post tweets, put my phone down, continue watching.
That's how every wrestling fan should watch the show.
I will tell you this as well, Billy, because this is a thing where everybody making this point is 100% accurate. I 100% agree with it, but it doesn't bother me. It's never bothered me. And I think people mistake what is good based on crowd reaction. And I'll talk about crowd reaction in a bit, but my thing is the crowd was hot at certain times during the pay-per-view and at other times it's not. However, I don't think wrestling fans have learned anything about the Royal Rumble for the last 30 years because the Royal Rumble match is not filled with spots. You got to let things breathe. You got to have certain eliminations. And last year we saw this in the Royal Rumble. This year we saw it even more. As a viewer, for me, I'm trying to pay attention to why did this person enter the Royal Rumble right here? Why was this person eliminated right here? Which is actually why I had an issue with the men's Royal Rumble. Let me just throw it out there for those who think I'm going to gas this up. I actually thought the men's Royal Rumble was incredibly underwhelming compared to the women's Royal Rumble. From an in-ring perspective, from a surprise perspective, the only thing that saved the men's Royal Rumble for me was the final 6 sitting in the ring next to each other. And I was like, these are the guys that I constantly talk about post Monday Night Raw live streams. Man, they have a crop of talent of world champions sitting there. WWE put them on TV. But I actually thought the men's Royal Rumble was a little underwhelming. And I'm going to explain why.
Yes.
I'm not watching for crowd reaction.
Okay.
Right? I don't care if the crowd's reacting. I care how I'm reacting. I care if I'm invested in it. Now, also, I'm not trying to justify the crowd because we were at SummerSlam in Detroit. People said, "Oh, the crowd sucked." I was there. The crowd did not suck. It didn't come across that way on TV. So I don't know if that's the same case in these larger stadiums. I don't know. But what I will say is this. The thing that pissed me off in this men's Royal Rumble was wasting an entrant for Pat McAfee, who goes into the ring because we already know Omos is not on TV. He's not doing anything. So he's taking up a spot from somebody else. I have no problem with Omos. They used that opportunity to make an NXT talent better, which was Braun Breaker. So I appreciated these things. But then you have Pat McAfee get up from the commentary table, go into the ring, and he's contemplating the idea of actually wanting to be in the match because he's scared of big, meaty men. Now, I'm not saying it's like entertaining or not entertaining. There's people who like it. There's people that don't like it. There's people who react to it, people that don't react to it. But for me, right, I'm a huge fan of Pat McAfee. I'm not a huge fan of Pat McAfee taking the Royal Rumble opportunity away from somebody like Cedric Alexander or somebody else who's not getting a lot of TV time.
Adonis right now.
There's guys who could be in the Rumble, get some spots, get some moments, and that to me would have been better. Does it mean I hate it? No. But at the same time, too, that was a moment that got a big reaction from fans. So at the end of the day, it wasn't necessarily for me. Other people enjoyed it, but I didn't care for it. So when I watch this match, brother, I'm not watching the Royal Rumble pay-per-view to see what people on Twitter are saying, because I quite frankly don't give a shit. And I don't care about these people who have spent thousands of dollars to sit front row and sit on their hands and with their hands on their ass and like not moving and not being, you know what I'm saying? Like, now I don't want to be long-winded with this, but I want to throw this out there.
Okay.
There is a huge flaw that WWE has. And quite frankly, I think AEW has this, and I will say TNA has this. It's an issue across all the 3 companies. Aside from a couple wrestlers on each of the rosters, the music in 2024 is not good. And I say this respectfully because I think people don't understand, especially for the Royal Rumble. This happens every year. Somebody comes out, and it could be, it could be somebody like really popular, and I already know their music.
Yeah, but I understand there's a lot of confusion with music. It feels like
nobody knows who's actually coming out.
Right. Yes.
And so for me personally, like when I heard Braun Breaker's music hit, I got excited. He comes out at number 20. I'm like, hey, I know Braun Breaker's music. He comes out, the crowd sees who he is. But then what got the reactions? It's not the initial pop. What got the reactions was him doing all of these spears, these eliminations. He eliminated Finn Balor.
Looking good.
Of course.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So when I see something like that, that's how I view wrestling. And I'm like, they need to fix that.
Yeah. And I think over time you may, because I'm looking at Triple H's WWE right now and I'm watching what's changing. And I'm seeing small things change as time goes on.
Yeah.
So that's something that I feel like, okay, over time, maybe he'll fix. One thing I will say is that, yes, as I do agree that in some aspects, this was an underwhelming Royal Rumble. I wasn't.
Are you saying the pay-per-view or the match? I just want you to specify.
The match. I'm going to clarify that. Yes. Um, but it was underwhelming up until, like you said, about the last 6, who we talk about very frequently, right?
Yeah.
But it really picked up for me with the last 4. And I
Yeah.
actually texted a buddy of mine. I said, I really want people to think about this. And I want people to think in the long run. Because when we're talking about Triple H and his WWE and how it looks, we talk about the long run. So you recall the 4 that were there. It was Drew, Gunther, Punk, Rhodes.
Mhm.
I texted my buddy. I said, I need you to understand how big this is.
Yeah.
It's big in the sense of you have 2 guys within Gunther and Drew McIntyre who are going to pretty much just get sent to a stratosphere. And this shows it, right? I believe we got some answers on something we've been talking about for a very long time with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk.
Yep.
I think we see that Monday night after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But those final 2, Ango, those final 2, I know, like you said, we're not looking for crowd reaction. And in some aspects, the crowd wasn't horrible, right? I'm not going to sit up and say that they were.
No, I think it was just based on like moments or whatever. It was just whatever.
But man, oh man, when I think about the promo battle that they had and then those 2 at the end of the Royal Rumble match, I just think to myself, man, this is going to headline a WrestleMania. Those 2 right there will headline a WrestleMania.
I'll be honest with you, based on what I saw, that's not something I want to see.
Really?
Not there. Here's why.
Okay.
WWE has created stars in Jey Uso. They've created stars in LA Knight. They've created, obviously, like the Cody and Randy feud. To me, speaks way more volumes than Cody and Punk.
Yeah.
Is it a feud? Yes. Is it a WrestleMania feud? I'm sure it is. But there's just so many other things I'd rather see. And I think WWE is going to separate them for a long time, to be honest with you. That's why I think they gave us a glimpse of it now.
Yeah, I do think they're going to. Yeah, because Punk's going to be on Raw. Cody is going to go over to SmackDown.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to mention, and this will be like the last big thing that I mentioned about this match.
Yeah.
Is that be prepared for a new WWE. Because it's going to happen. Quote me on it, whatever. Be prepared to not see Roman on your TV that much. You already don't. But be prepared to really not see him.
Yeah.
Because chances are they're holding off on him and Rock. I can imagine him and the Rock will go at 41. Rightfully so. Let it be for the head of the table. But yeah, I mean, just understand that a new WWE is about to be brewed in, I guess would be the word.
I can tell you off the rip. There's a lot of things that I've noticed with like, and I read the chats and I read Twitter and Discord and stuff like that. But I think a lot of times too, people aren't watching what they're seeing. WWE is very story focused. This is not an AEW show where you're just going to get these crazy ass matches. You might get them from time to time, but like the reality is you're following the story. And I think when I was watching this Royal Rumble, like, and this was a thing that I appreciated last year and I appreciated this year, because for so long I always felt like I don't really like the idea of Royal Rumble matches not having continuous storytelling. Because for me, it's like, hey, like, perfect example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Originally, my predictions, I was like, oh, Andrade and Santos, like, they're going to go face to face and it's going to be this big ordeal. And maybe, we'll get some stuff with the LWO, whatever. They kind of did something with that, but there was left more to be desired, right?
Yeah.
Karrion Kross and Bobby Lashley, right? And then you have AOP coming ringside and they're brawling and brawling and brawling. Like, I appreciate those things because now it's like, yeah, Karrion Kross he wants to beat up Bobby Lashley. That's his storyline currently. Karrion Kross also wants to win the world championship because he's in the Royal Rumble match. And you see the mistake that these guys make where they take their head off their, they lose a little bit of focus to go focus on that storyline because that's their beef. Oh, now they got eliminated. It justifies why they get eliminated in the first place, which I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that last year, this year. But in comparison, I felt like the Women's Royal Rumble was far greater than the Men's Royal Rumble on all levels. Honestly, all levels. It was excitement from the minute it started, surprises, way more surprises.
I do believe, though, and I'm going to kind of argue that it was the hype going into the show and then building off that hype. Obviously, we've seen like Jordan Grace and stuff like that. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do think the reason why it was so exhilarating and so exciting, because I totally agree, but I do believe there was a reason. It was because of the hype going into the show, because let's be real here, everybody was pumped for this show.
I'm going to tell you right now, the Women's Royal Rumble should have main evented.
Absolutely. At that rate.
100%.
Yeah, at that rate.
Because here's the thing. I do agree, like there's some momentum and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think people need to realize, like with this Men's Royal Rumble, and there's always going to be less surprises in the Men's Royal Rumble. It happens every year. But I think the expectations that people have in the internet are absolutely crazy. So
yeah, I mean, they build them up huge.
So for example, I say this all the time. I say, lower your expectations. Like, I might joke around, bro. I'm on Twitter. I'm posting GIFs all day of a whole bunch of TNA wrestlers. I post Abyss. I know exactly what I'm doing, right? I'm posting these GIFs. Now, I'm not reporting anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm literally just posting them. I'm just having fun on social media. So I post GIFs of Tommy Dreamer and Rhino and Abyss and
all those guys.
Moose and all of these people. And the thing is, you see on Twitter, this happens every year. And I swear to God, it's probably the funniest thing, because I always tell my cousins, I'm like, listen, you're going to read a lot of stuff. There was reports earlier that Sheamus was coming back. Oh, Sheamus would be sick. This would be great, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Big E. Dude, people got to lower their expectations for the Royal Rumble. That's why I'm never disappointed with the Royal Rumble. Even when I feel like this was a little bit of an underwhelming match, I don't expect that many surprises, which is why I do get a little bit bothered when I get Pat McAfee coming in and then just throwing himself over. Why? Because it's like, you could have done something else that mattered to me. That personally didn't matter to me. And I love Pat McAfee. And I would have no problem with Pat McAfee being in the match. But to throw yourself out in 38 seconds,
make it make sense.
Michael Cole lasted longer. It's not make it make sense. I understand what they're doing, but what they're doing right there isn't for me. And so that's why I say it's like, it's a little bit underwhelming, because personally speaking, it's like, I don't have these high expectations. So when you do something like that, it's like, fuck, you could have done something better. And by the way, I just want to tell people, if you are seriously one of those people who genuinely believed MJF or Okada were going to show up at number 30, first of all, let me explain to you something. Log off the internet. Please log off the internet, go and do something different for a little bit of time period, and then log back on when you're refocused and recalibrated. Because here's the thing, dude. I'm not saying that WWE can't pull it off, but I see wrestling fans who are genuinely pissed at WWE.
The expectation is too high.
That is a problem.
Yes,
because
people are leading with expectation.
You have to be realistic. Andrade was realistic. Why? Because we all know it was 100% confirmed he left AEW. WWE didn't have to tease Andrade. We knew what was going on, regardless of the reports. We knew that Andrade would find himself back in the WWE.
Yeah, everybody knew that.
Andrade came out, by the way. I thought Andrade's music was fire. Some people disagreed, but I knew, like, this is the thing. People didn't necessarily pop right off the rip. They didn't know. But Andrade came out with this dope-ass mask, great attire. He comes out. And even that, I was like, man, I really love Andrade, but even his Royal Rumble match was slightly underwhelming. Like, his part of it, And it's not because Andrade, it's not because of the booking or anything, but there are far more important things in this match than Andrade. For example, they teased a little bit with Andrade and Santos. Great. That's probably going to lead to something. That was enough for me, right?
Yep.
But for people who are like, Andrade, that really wasn't special. Brother, they just set up CM Punk and Drew McIntyre for Elimination Chamber. What is the bigger match here? And it's not like they left Andrade with nothing, but that's kind of how I looked at it. So, yeah, I just felt like the Men's Royal Rumble in comparison to the women's, it was underwhelming. But I also don't have crazy expectations when it comes to this stuff, so I'm not pissed off.
Not the men's, just from what past tells me and stuff like that. The Men's Royal Rumble, like you said, it's always been a little underwhelming in the sense of who's coming out, who can you expect? I just expect most of the time the guys who are on the roster, and they're just going to tell me a good story.
It's not even so much that, though, too, but you got to remember, it's the Royal Rumble. Like, The thing about Royal Rumble, it's not one-on-one match. There's 30 people, and at the same time in the ring, there could be like 6 to 9 people in the ring at the same time. So personally speaking, it's one of those things where like I'm satisfied with the Royal Rumble because I know my expectations. I also think too, and this is the big thing too, I'll say, the reason why I have a hard time valuing a lot of opinions on the internet about surprises and things like that is because the amount of comments I've seen, and I want to address this, the amount of comments that I've seen when I fantasy book Okada, right?
Yeah.
I fantasy book because it's fun. It's fun to throw these theories out there. Oh, imagine if this happens, right?
Yeah.
But let me explain something too, because Billy, this is where it gets a little chaotic.
Okay.
If I fantasy book Okada and Okada doesn't show up, that's not my fault and that's not the WWE's fault. These are theories. These are just fun things, right? Now, with that being said, sometimes theories could sound really good and sometimes they could seem very realistic, but you have to realize they're not as realistic, right?
Yeah.
Now, imagine how many comments, if you had to guess, just throw me a number. How many comments do you think I got saying nobody knows who Okada is and nobody would pop for Okada?
How many comments did you get, Ango? Because
No, guess. I want you to guess.
I'll put it in the 100, 200 mark.
I will tell you off the rip, just based on my last 5 uploads where I've talked about anything Royal Rumble, I've counted about 90. It was like 96, I think. It was just shy of 100.
Okay.
Now, hold on. Now, a year ago, when Triple H takes over creative fully, right? Like full creative, Vince McMahon, whatever. Like we don't know the situation. I say, when Triple H has the Royal Rumble without any Vince McMahon influence, I predict we're going to see a Forbidden Door thing.
Which we
in that video, that was over a year ago. I predict this. I say, I think next year we'll get it. I think it's possible. I think Triple H would be open to it.
Yeah.
Then Endeavor Streaming and TNA launched TNA Plus, their partnership. I say, I think this could very well be a partnership where maybe it's nothing crazy, but it could lead to something like Royal Rumble Forbidden Door entrant. This is not the first time I've talked about this. People could go on my channel, they could see it. Now, Billy, how many people do you think have told me, because I know the exact number of this, how many people do you think told me they would never bring in Okada, they would never bring in a Forbidden Door entrant because nobody would know who they are?
I'll put it. Now, are we talking last couple uploads? What number?
Nah, this is like since like last year.
Since last year?
Yeah. I went to specific episodes.
Couple thousand. Got to be a couple thousand.
I can't hand count a couple thousand for sure. But I've checked several videos, and the total of 15 videos,
300.
Perfect. It was 320.
Boom. All right.
320 comments. Now let me explain something to you. Today, we saw people go crazy and chant. We saw 40,000 people chant TNA at the pay-per-view. So here's the thing. With the Okada and with the expectations thing, people will try to say, well, these expectations this isn't realistic because nobody knows who they are. No, it's not realistic because you have another company that exists that ties people down to contracts that may not be reported, but that's truly what's happening.
Yep.
People were pissed that Mercedes didn't show up today. People were pissed off about that. So at the end of the day, I find it funny because it's all about expectations. And like I said, I personally thought this Royal Rumble, the men's Royal Rumble, was underwhelming, but it wasn't because of my expectations. I didn't give a fuck about what people look, bro. If you're going to spend thousands of dollars to go sit front row and you're not going to make noise, that's up to you.
Yeah,
that's up to you. I personally don't give a fuck about 2 things in life: how you react to wrestling and how you spend your money.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me. And if it don't affect me, I don't care. So at the end of the day, if you're going to these shows and you're not reacting, you're not interested, that's fine. My suggestion would be don't go. This is the same reason why, like, I've told you before, I'd be like, I don't really feel like going to an AEW, in Dynamite in Detroit or whatever. But it's like, bro, the fucking environment's fun. So like, even if I don't care about the product, I'm going to spend my money and I'm going to have fun because I'm with other wrestling fans.
I was about to say the environments are just out of this world.
For sure. Yeah. So for me personally, it's like, I that's why I said earlier, it's like, I care about my expectations and what I want to see more than anything. Because I'm the consumer.
Right. I'm the person that you're trying to get into the building.
So we're the consumers. And my realistic expectations are pretty low with wrestling. I don't demand much.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to people just put themselves in positions. Twitter needs to be stopped. I'm just gonna go out and say it. Twitter needs to be stopped because when you go out and you're like, because even like my friends will text me and be like, bro, like, do you think this is what's gonna happen? And I'll be like, no, you are putting too much in your head right now and overthinking this. Watch the show, enjoy it, have fun. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Why does everything need to be overbooked? Why can't we go into this show? Because I'm gonna sit up and tell you, I told you in the beginning, I thought the show was good, and it
Yeah.
was just that. Will I critique some things?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The problem is you get a show like Survivor Series that
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
and the whole place blows up. That's your expectation. Well, what happens, right, after that?
Yeah.
And what happens is things continue on. It becomes a normal show. Now CM Punk's a part of the show.
Yeah.
Well, now I want MJF Okada. Now you can't have all that right now.
So one thing too, I always say is judge what is in front of you,
Yes.
not what's being reported in this and that. Because, sure, Mercedes didn't show up, right? Sasha Banks didn't return tonight. The amount of people, which these aren't really credible sources too, which this is a fucking problem. There's a lot of these Twitter accounts, and I'm talking about people with zero credibility. They have Twitter Blue, 1,000 followers. They call themselves something scoops or whatever the hell it is, and they're like, "Oh, this is what you need to expect. This is what's going to happen." And these tweets pick up steam because they pay for Twitter Blue.
Yep.
I think the problem is a lot of people see these kinds of tweets where it's like all of these bullshit ass reports, and I swear to God, this impacts AEW and WWE 100%,
horribly too,
horribly.
bad.
But it sets like the amount of people that were like, "Oh, Sasha is going to be number 30." Like I seen a tweet, the account deactivated too. One of these accounts they deactivated, but it was like something about Becky. So it was like Becky's gonna win the Rumble. She's gonna get this, do this, whatever. Mercedes will come in at 30. Like it was a whole bunch of stuff, and I had people send me these tweets and these DMs, and they're like, "Yo, bro, like, is this legit?" I'm like, "I'll tell you this right now. I do not know who the source is, but I would say there's zero credibility to this. But you never know. Don't set your expectations, please. This is why, like, I tell people, even with my content and our content in general, when we talk about wrestling, I talk about my feelings towards wrestling. I don't want my feelings to persuade you to think differently about wrestling. If you agree, that's one thing. But even if you disagree, like, I don't want you to think like my opinion is the opinion that truly matters. This is for us to come together as a community and talk about different things and have different opinions and stuff like that. I see a lot of people forming their opinions based on what else is posted on social media that looks smart or looks like it could happen. So when I watched wrestling, I don't get disappointed, but I see a lot of people in AEW and WWE are. I seen a lot of people pissed off. I'll tell you, I seen people that are like, Sasha Banks didn't show up at Daly's place. Oh, she's definitely in the Rumble. And I seen people who actually run with this thing. And that to me is not enjoyable. It takes away from what wrestling is. I think people need to understand you have to judge what is in front of you. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Like I said, I understand that me not liking the Pat McAfee thing, as a fan of Pat McAfee, I didn't enjoy it. I thought that took away from the match. I didn't care for it. I understand that other people enjoy it. So that's fine.
I might be the bad guy here. I may be the bad guy. I see people in the chat, and I'm just looking at it. And I see a lot of it. So it's not just one singular person. It's, oh, WWE, they're all right. They're okay.
Yeah.
A month ago, they were to the moon. Make up your mind. Are they bad? Are they good? Or are you just not satisfied with this one show? I'm sorry if I look like the bad guy here. I do apologize. But as wrestling fans, when are we going to understand that not everything is going to be perfect under whoever you want it to be? It doesn't matter who's booking the show.
No.
Not everything is going to be perfect. It can't be. No human's perfect, right?
Yeah.
So it blows my mind. We need to understand that not everything is going to be up to par, but we just need to stick to the pace. Like for me, I know for me personally, I'm going to see what they do going up to WrestleMania 40. I can imagine Raw will be great.
I don't want to talk about the other 3 matches just yet. The
Yes.
main event, the Men's Royal Rumble, did it set you up for excitement for WrestleMania 40?
100%.
Okay, why?
Because what I have been seeing on TV has played out in front of my face.
Yeah.
So to me, that tells me only one thing. You care about what you are putting on television more than what the internet says.
Yeah. Commitment to the long-term vision is what I see from Triple H. And
Yep.
this is, I mean, I challenge anybody really to confront me on this, because I watch weekly and I see a lot of people say that's not true. But if you believe it's not, I would love to invite somebody on here and we could watch the clips together, because what I'm seeing on TV reflected in the Royal Rumble as well. It all transitioned into some storytelling and stuff. But you know, on a weekly basis, what I see from WWE is that it's gotten to the point where every single week the continuity is there. They're not having 5-star banger matches. They're not. They're not designed to. That's not the company. That's not what they do. From time to time, you get some great stuff, but at the end of the day, you didn't get that. And that's why for me, it's like, booking perspective, I thought the Men's Royal Rumble was great. I thought every match was actually really well produced.
Oh,
which
100%.
This is actually the first time I will say 100% of the pay-per-view was well produced in terms of like the everything making a lot of logical sense.
It was all cohesive.
100%. But I will tell you, this was also the main event. I felt like that shouldn't have been there. Like, again, and I'm not trying to harp on the Pat McAfee thing, but like Dragon Lee, for example, on the main roster, he's not on there. Right. Like, you're telling me you couldn't find a spot for Dragon Lee in the Royal Rumble for a chance to just show people what he can do, because you got 40,000 people in the stadium, and you have Andrade, you have Santos, like you can tie things in, right?
Yep.
So when I see Omos, who isn't regularly used on TV, when I see Pat McAfee, who's not regularly used, you know, I feel like it kind of takes away from what could be done. Right. That's a criticism. That's a fair criticism, in my opinion. But also at the same time, too, what I want to say is I appreciate the fact that Karrion Kross and Bobby Lashley have their beef. I appreciate the fact that when I'm watching the Men's Royal Rumble, a lot of the stuff that happened in the match all made sense because of what I've seen on TV. It didn't feel like it was coming out of left field, except for Pat McAfee and Omos. Now, I did want to throw this out there. I asked you a question about your excitement for WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking delighted. I'm ecstatic for WrestleMania 40, because I truly believe what I've seen pan out in the last year is coming to fruition. I think Cody's finishing the story. Yeah. And I feel like the internet really ruined that for a lot of people, because there's a lot of, I see people, which is fair. If you're not into long-term storytelling, I understand like this isn't for you. But a lot of people who are saying Cody's boring, or this is, you know, it's just repetitive or whatever, that's, to me, it excites me for one reason. I appreciate the fact they didn't change course. It is very clear when you look at Gunther on TV and in the Rumble, and when you look at Drew McIntyre in the Rumble, I appreciate they did not change course, because at some point they could have had Gunther win and I would have been dope.
Yeah.
They could have had Sami Zayn win the Royal Rumble. I would have been like dope. Why? Because on TV, him and Drew McIntyre's salty as fuck all the time.
Can I tell you that is something that if I'm going to sit up and talk about why this match, besides the regular stuff that we think we know or whatever, what really excited me about that Rumble was Sami Zayn at number 30.
So here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's people who love Sami Zayn who are disappointed because it's not Okada.
No.
So to me, that's where I'm like, come on now.
So
I'll be realistic.
I'll tell you why Sami Zayn at 30 I liked. Number one, you want a surprise? He hasn't been on TV.
Yeah.
Kind of shocking to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, maybe because of the internet, kind of upfront and in your face, and you feel the match as it goes. And I think that's what happened when I texted you earlier and I said, you know, Sami Zayn, I think, is going to be 30.
Yeah.
It was a feeling, right?
Yeah.
But when I see Sami Zayn at 30 and I see Drew throw him over, it kind of tells me that Drew has one up on this guy while the other guy has one up on Drew.
Yeah.
So guess what that tells me? There's a lot of TV stuff to be told on. All these guys are on Raw, so they could play into all of this, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a 3-way storyline not going in 3 different ways, right? It's just one guy sits in the middle and it's Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think, but people just need to understand that, yes, it may not be as shocking as you want it to be, but it's fun. Enjoy the excitement. Watch TV for what it is. Be happy with what you see. And if you're not, just don't watch it. It's okay. You're not forced to. Right?
Let me ask you a question. Because I don't want to spend too much time talking about this match. We've spent 40 minutes on it, but sometimes that's what happens. But I'm gonna tell you, I personally speaking, from the kickoff show to the very end, I love what R-Truth does. I understand not everybody likes it, but for me, it's like it kind of takes you away from everything, and it's stupid, and he's dumb as hell, and to me, it kind of popped me, right?
Yeah.
What is your take on R-Truth taking up a spot in the Royal Rumble, doing the spots with the Miz and JD McDonough and all these guys? Like, are you one of these guys
taking up a spot?
So people are complaining. They're like, well, if you don't like the Pat McAfee thing, then how do you enjoy the R-Truth thing? And for me, I felt like there's actual comedy value with R-Truth, but
are people really saying that?
Yeah,
that's a real thing people are saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm curious if
R-Truth is on my TV every single week since Survivor Series has been on my TV consistently. Pat McAfee, I watch on College Game Day.
Yeah. So, I don't want people to get it twisted. I like Pat McAfee. I just,
I love Pat McAfee. I love him. I love him on commentary. I love him on College Game Day. I love his wrestling.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense here. That's all. Truth made sense because Truth, right, has been on my TV. Nothing more, nothing less. Again, it goes back to the beginning and what we were talking about.
Yeah.
You do not need to overdo things. Why do you need to overthink R-Truth being in there? No, he's right now telling a very good story with the Judgment Day. So he gets JD McDonough eliminated. Yeah. We're playing into the story. Understand that these stories need to move on. And what better way? Look at Jimmy and Jay. That's not being talked about.
Yeah.
1 and 2, Jimmy and Jay at SummerSlam, right?
Not to cut you off, but they set up the road. They set up the roadmap.
I had a guy, right, at SummerSlam. This is going to be completely out of left field. I had a guy at SummerSlam when we went in Detroit.
Yeah.
I had a guy, me and my buddy, we were walking, end of the show. He said, Jimmy J, WrestleMania. Me, seeming like a bad fan. No chance. And what happened? This guy is on his couch somewhere thinking about, I told those guys.
Yeah.
And he was right. Let things play out. Let these stories happen.
Yeah.
It's a new age in WWE, man.
It is. And I don't blame fans for not necessarily understanding it because it's all about being reconditioned. But yeah, I thought the men's Royal Rumble was good. I thought it did what it was supposed to do. Far more predictable than the women's Royal Rumble, but it just goes to show you the long-term vision's been there. Triple H doesn't change plans, and I appreciate that as a viewer because for so long I'm so used to things changing and The Rock being a disruptor or somebody coming in to take the spot of somebody else. And I appreciate the fact that WWE didn't do it. And again, it goes back to what Jack Farmer said on X. It's sometimes the best story is the most obvious one. And this is the most obvious one. And I think WWE right now, because we are going to talk about the Roman Reigns match, but I think WWE right now needs to get away from Roman. And I hold for very, very firm feelings on that.
He's hindering a lot right now.
It's not that he's hindering a lot from his performance. He's hindering a lot from the fact he's holding the belt. I understand.
Should we dive into Roman right now?
We will, but I do want to read a couple super chats.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Rick Corral has dropped a $5 super chat. Naomi wasn't a surprise. Andrade wasn't a surprise. Jordan Grace was a surprise. Do we see a TNA working relationship now? I do want to talk more in depth about the Women's Royal Rumble in just a little bit. In regards to what you deem as a surprise or don't deem as a surprise, just keep this in mind. If you belong on the internet, if you watch my videos, if you're on Twitter, if you're in Discord, which Rick, I know you do, unfortunately, things aren't going to be a surprise, unfortunately. But I promise you, if you were not on social media, if you were somebody who is not part of this community,
all of those things would have been a surprise.
They all would have been a surprise. I will say this. One thing that helps for me personally, just during like Royal Rumble or pay-per-views and stuff, you can't really shock me. And unfortunately, the reason why, and I don't want to talk too much about this, but there's things that get sent to me that aren't necessarily reported and they do come to fruition, right? I've had this
Yeah.
happen a couple instances where it's like, which I understand why it gets sent to me and stuff like that. And I've looked at it and I'm like, okay, we'll see how this pans out. Is it accurate? That type of thing.
Yeah.
Naturally, me just knowing a lot about the business of wrestling and like covering wrestling,
And understanding it.
I'm never gonna be surprised, right?
Right.
But I will tell you, Naomi wasn't obviously a surprise because I watched TNA. I know she
Yeah,
was saying goodbye to TNA.
but be real here, and let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Be real here. When you seen her come out and you seen the glow, did you get excited?
100%.
Boom, there you go.
Because
You've been surprised.
So that's what I was gonna say. For me, the surprise is like, okay, when it happens and how does it happen? That's what
Yep.
surprises me. So I actually loved Naomi being in the Rumble, and I was actually extremely happy that they did it off the rip.
I mean,
Natalia
it was
comes
all
out
a jump.
because Natalia comes out first, then you have Naomi. I'm like, okay, this is some really good shit. And so Andrade obviously wasn't a surprise. And again, my biggest criticism in wrestling, every company can, I don't care who agrees or disagrees. I'm just telling you, this is the reason why people don't know. Theme music in wrestling is like not as captivating as it was during the Attitude Era. There was theme songs, you heard it, you knew who it was. In wrestling today, it's an issue. And so Andrade, and one thing, WWE is a little cheeky with this. They have the LED barricades, right? And the thing pops up with the logos and the names and stuff.
Yeah.
When Andrade came out, the camera moved away from the ring so you couldn't see it. And they did like the overview shot.
Yeah.
And it's different theme music. So when he comes out, so here's the thing. To me, it was a shock because I don't know Andrade's theme music, but it's not a shock that Andrade's there. So it's like, okay, cool. This is where we get Andrade. What was surprising to me was like, oh, this dude comes out even with better entrance gear and stuff, so it's like the little things.
His entrance gear was crazy.
Fire. And then Rick, to answer the Jordan Grace thing, right? For me, it's not necessarily a surprise because these are my expectations that I've had for over a year, right? I also truly believe that picture that I posted on my community tab on YouTube was Triple H at TNA. Whether it actually was him or not, I don't know, but it very much looked like him. Yeah. But I will say this. I guess we could break a little bit of news. I don't know if this is necessarily news breaking, but Jordan Grace said this is not the last time.
Nope.
That we'll see.
I've seen it. Yep.
So I do think we're going to see a lot more. When I talk about the Women's Royal Rumble, guys, I have a lot to say about Jordan Grace because there is something that I don't know if wrestling podcasters, apparently a lot of people don't watch TNA. That's what the streets tell me. But I watch TNA every week. I've been watching Impact every week.
Your boy a watcher now.
I've been blessed to have relationships with people in that company and become friends with certain people in that company. For me, there was something amazing about that, and I can't wait to talk about it. But yeah, Jordan Grace was a surprise. Do we see a TNA working relationship now? Jordan Grace says that's not the last time we've seen it. So who knows? But I'll tell you this. I saw Jordan Grace go face to face with WWE's top stars, man. And the moment, she looks like one. We knew she's good. I've seen her become really good, but I never saw Jordan Grace wrestle in front of 48,000 fans.
Once we get into that, I do have a lot to say.
Yeah. And I saw her go face to face with Naomi, and her going face to face with Naomi had a massive pop. So when somebody tells me they don't watch TNA, we don't watch TNA, nobody watches TNA.
At least look it up.
That's fucking bullshit. Nobody would pop for Jordan Grace and Naomi if they didn't know what the fuck happened in TNA. And that right there was a beautiful moment. So yes, Rick Corellas, thank you for the $5 super chat. Barker Lewis Can't Chew dropped $4.99. He says Cody versus Roman at Mania with Rock special ref. Cody wins, setting up Rock versus Roman at SummerSlam for head of the table. I'm never going to be opposed to this because I've pretty much made it clear. I just want Cody to win the belt. I don't care how they do it.
Yeah, just put it on him.
What I think is the best way to handle it, it's clean. Cody wins, and that's it. He gets his moment. For me personally.
Do you remember what happened with The Miz
Yes.
at
100%.
27? You remember what happened?
It took away from
It
The
took
Miz.
away from The Miz, and The
Yeah.
Miz deserved that at the time because nobody remembers how hard The Miz worked at that moment in time. No, again, I think it's it's clean cut. It's clean cut. It's clear. It's simple. Again, it goes back to the same thing we've been saying all stream. You do not need to overdo things. Let them be. I think that has to be said just enough in this stream that this whole thing, it's simple, it's easy, don't have to do too much. You could literally bring The Rock out on a Raw and have him call out Roman and it'll be set up. You're good there. You know what I mean?
Who's to say they don't do the match in Saudi Arabia or Australia?
Nobody said anything, right?
Like
There's
I
so
said,
many ways
the
and
big thing
avenues.
that came out, there was a news outlet in Australia that said that they wanted The Rock versus Roman in Elimination Chamber. That's what they wanted. The tourism committee was willing to pay for it. So let's just say they get that, right? Let's say they get Rock versus. You can
Roman
do that
for the belt.
Do it at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah. What if
Cody already has his seat cemented at WrestleMania.
He's good.
So and one thing I did kind of want to point out too, man, and Billy, chime in on this, but like I feel like a lot of people need to realize that earlier we're talking about predictability isn't always a bad thing if it's the best obvious story. But I feel like one of the biggest things I'm appreciating so much out of wrestling in general, this includes every other wrestling company. It's the fact that right now there are a lot of great potential stories for the world championship. There is a lot of people. So this is why I get a little bit bothered with The Rock stuff. I don't hate The Rock. I wanted Rock versus Roman years ago. But I follow TV and I look at what people are doing on TV. So when I see on SmackDown that there's credible world champions losing because Roman's holding the belt, or I see there's credible champions like Shinsuke or Drew losing the chance to win the belt, sometimes I'm like, this is actually kind of a good problem to have, that there's credible opponents. I like the fact that the world titles in WWE mean something. I love the fact that Samoa Joe in AEW has like 10 people who are trying to become the world champion.
Yeah, they're going after him.
So me personally, this is why I have an issue with The Rock and Roman over Cody and Roman, because The Rock is not on TV showing me he wants the belt. And thankfully, I believed, and I've been saying this for a long time, WWE is fucking with the dirt sheets. And they are. They pick and choose when they're going to fuck with them. They do this all the time. And I mention this as like I preface my videos by saying, hey, you know, these people, it could be great credible sources and stuff, but again, do not believe everything you hear in these reports, because at the end of the day, there's intention. I do not think there's a coincidence whatsoever that The Rock teased head of the table. I don't think it's a coincidence at all that The Rock has done interviews and, you know, the stuff with Young Rock, right? Where it's like, oh, that's a match made for WrestleMania one day. Yeah. These are things that are happening, but they're not happening on weekly WWE television. So therefore, me as a person who's watching the show that I'm committed to watching every week, I don't need that to happen over the thing that's actually happening on TV. Is it a massive match? Yes. Do you do the match? Yes. Does it have to happen at WrestleMania? No. So, Barker, just to kind of come back to your super chat, whether The Rock is there and endorses Cody, you can do that if you want. Do I think it should happen? No. If they do it, does it bother me? No. Do I understand why it would bother people? Yes, because it's Cody's moment. If The Rock is endorsing Cody's win, it's different than The Rock going face-to-face with Roman to take away from Cody's moment. It depends how they do it. With that being said, Rock versus Roman could very well happen at a SummerSlam. And here's the good thing. I prefer it actually doesn't. I want it in Australia.
Yeah, so do I.
AJ, LA Knight, Randy, they just lost a triple threat match tonight. I do not want to see these guys having a singles match with Roman at Elimination Chamber, because they just lost their opportunity. Bring back The Rock. You set it up. Cool. Now you can have Cody face-to-face with Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber as they point to the WrestleMania sign. Because remember, tonight, Cody didn't wave at the sign. He waved at Roman Reigns. He's finishing the fucking story, and it's going to happen. But if you want to tease it, you could do The Rock versus Roman at Elimination Chamber. That's how you go about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea that you do. I've been saying it. I'll say it forever. I see a lot of people. Rock said that he wants it at Mania. Rock doesn't care where he does it.
But does he actually want it at Mania?
No.
See, here's the thing. Does The Rock really want it at WrestleMania? I don't believe these things.
Because if he wanted it at WrestleMania, he'd be in the Royal Rumble. He'd be on the show. He'd be chasing it. And guess what he's not doing?
Look, if it was Vince McMahon's WWE,
sure.
100% I get it.
Yes.
But I've been watching Triple H's version. It's different.
It's
it is
a lot
so different.
different.
And I'm not saying Triple H is, oh my God. No, it's just very clear that Triple H has an idea of what he's trying to accomplish.
Triple H really
perfect.
Triple H, all he did was take the things that weren't working before and made them work.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. If you really watch this show, he just took the things before that people would complain about, and then stopped them from complaining about it. And now they're finding more things to complain about.
For sure. Well, of course, it's one thing. It's this, and like that's why I swear to God, it's the greatest part about my YouTube channel. This is why, if you guys like, please pay attention to the words I speak. Please. I promise you, I'm very, very well thought out when it comes to this. I'm boosting my fucking head right now because that's how sincere I am about this shit. I do not say things about one company or the other, then praise the same exact thing that's happening in another company.
Yeah.
So, like, it's really easy for me to stay firm on my opinions because they are my true opinions. When I say that WWE is really focused on storytelling, I can give a lot more examples of how WWE is far more focused than the other company. When I say AEW has the best environment for a live show or the best, wrestling matches, everything is subjective, of course. But like the things that I like about those things, I can give you examples of how WWE doesn't do it. But of course, I will always remain consistent in the fact I do not care about matches more than stories. So I love my consistency. I will always be consistent. And this is the reason why I'm super firm. Like, I don't think people understand, for me at least, like, I'm pretty dead set on Cody versus Roman because that's my expectation off of television for over a year. Now, if Cody doesn't finish the story at WrestleMania, my post show is going to fucking be insane. Why? Because I'm going to be sitting here talking about how WWE fucked up. Don't believe me? Today is January 28th, 2024. Come back to the stream and come back to my reaction after WrestleMania. Why? Because these are my expectations after a year of watching the television show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes to show, really, yes, it's simple. Again, you don't have to overthink this. That's it. So everybody's saying, "Oh, it's off to they messed up." They didn't. They're fine. You're just, I'm sorry, and maybe people will dislike me because I'm sitting here calling it what it is, and I'm maybe being a little bit more rough than Ango is in this sense. But yeah, I mean, it's as simple as you're overhyping yourself. Calm down. It's gonna be okay. Watch the show, enjoy it. If not, don't watch it. Move on.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like for me, like I said, I'm dead set on Cody versus Roman. So if I get The Rock versus like what I tell you, bro, I said anybody could win the Royal Rumble. There's really nothing that would bother me. I said the only thing I think that would bother me is if it was The Rock.
Yeah,
and that's somebody who's a fan of The Rock. But at the same time too, it's just that's not what I've been seeing on TV.
Nope.
Barker, thank you for the super chat, guys. We're spending a lot of time on these super chats, so if you guys want us to have an in-depth conversation about it, drop one. I am not Avery dropped a $4.99. He says Andrade return made me pop. Cody pointing at Roman rather than the WrestleMania sign was the perfect chef's kiss. Love you, fellas. I am not Avery. First of all, we love you too. Thank you. Sir. Dude. I thought for sure they would give Andrade his old music back. I was hoping they would because
but I love that they didn't because bro, Andrade, again, you expect it, but dude looked like a star.
Yeah. They got to book him like one though.
Yeah, they do. And dude, it's Triple H. He's going to book him like one. Come on.
I will say, I think a lot of people who were part of WWE before who went elsewhere, I think they're going to pay a lot of attention to Andrade because of the fact that Andrade is, he went to AEW. So I hope they get it right with Andrade. I don't have crazy expectations with Andrade. I just want him on weekly television. That was my
Want him
complaint
doing
about
cool
AEW.
shit. Want him doing cool shit.
I never said AEW didn't know how to book Andrade. I always said AEW never booked Andrade. Weekly television. That's all I ask for. I understand you're not going to be on every single episode, but you got to have him on TV pretty regularly.
Continuity.
And I like the fact that they had Andrade and Santos have that moment. I love
that shit was so cool.
By the way, shout out to commentary. Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, and Corey Graves. Just, they kind of talk about history amongst people, and like they're kind of giving you a backstory to things a little bit.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they didn't. I would have preferred to see them tease some LWO stuff, but they're saving that for television, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I like the fact that Andrade and Santos had a moment together because there is some history there. And the cool thing is there's stuff happening on TV with the LWO and Legado del Fantasma. My question is like, okay, how does Andrade fit into this? I like the fact that they did something a little bit, but they have me wanting more. I thought it was weird that Bronson Reed eliminated Andrade. But at least it was Bronson Reed eliminating Andrade and not like Ricochet, which that's not a knock towards Ricochet.
But he hasn't been on TV.
But it's not even so much that, because you could always make a new story based on elimination.
Right, yeah.
But just for me, sense of realism is that big Bronson Reed and Andrade. Bronson Reed's bigger than Andrade. Andrade's bigger than Ricochet. So it's just like a perception thing. Really want to point that out. Thank you. I am not Avery. Justin Kennington dropping a $2 super chat. Royal Rumble was a fun show. 8.5 out of 10. You know what's funny, Billy? I don't know how to give out number ratings anymore for shows.
Nope.
I really don't. Because I feel like everything pretty much hit for me in terms of like the storytelling component, like the like the elements to it. But do I take some points away from WWE because of the crowd, or I don't know, right? Do I take away 0.5 because Pat McAfee was in the Rumble instead of Dragon Lee? Like, I don't know how to do this. Where are we
taking the points away?
Yeah, I don't know where I'm taking the points away, but I would say that Royal Rumble was a fun pay-per-view. For me personally, I was sitting down here, relaxing, watching the show.
It was a fun Saturday night. WWE did the job for me.
But of course, I still think the Women's Royal Rumble should have made it. I won't change my mind on that either.
Okay.
Justin, thank you for the $2 super chat. First time super chat from Clicks for $1.99. No comment.
Cool name. That's a cool name.
Yeah, no comment from Clicks, but I did want to shout out to Clicks because that's the first time super chat.
Yeah, and Clicks, you have a really cool name. I don't know why. I think it was the way you spelled it. I don't know.
Justin Kennington dropped another $2 super chat. He says, Mania 40, we get Braun versus Gunther for the IC title.
Let's talk about it.
I like it, bro. We've been an hour just talking about the men's Royal Rumble, and I have so much shit I want to talk about. So I can't talk too long about this. And I don't want to get into specifics. There was rumors that for a long time it would be Gunther versus Lesnar at WrestleMania. Braun Breaker came into this Royal Rumble absolutely on fire. Some really incredible showcase for Braun Breaker. Whether that was the Brock Lesnar plan, I don't know. But Braun Breaker versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania would be very enjoyable. It would be very enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean,
they have some history in NXT.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
It would be very enjoyable, but I will say this. This is where I'm a little confused with WWE. They did more for me to believe that Gunther is going to become a world champion before dropping the Intercontinental Champion. So, Justin, I'm not saying you're wrong, but
I'm saying you're right.
Really sure. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're right. I'm just saying it's an interesting. It's interesting, and I would enjoy it.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Clicks figured out how to drop an actual super chat.
Oh, bro.
$4.99 from Clicks. He says, so what does this TNA WWE partnership mean? What do you guys think we should expect? Love you guys. Clicks, thank you for the super chat again. I'll tell you from my perspective because I've spoken on this. Yeah. And then Billy, go ahead and chime in. But I believed, I've always kind of predicted that if WWE and TNA work together, you will see it more from the NXT standpoint with women. and NIL talent. And the reason for that is because NXT and TNA are very similar in the way that they treat their women's division. I can also see a scenario where if WWE ever wants to do Evolution, all women's pay-per-view, I can see TNA lending out some knockouts. I can also very much see a pay-per-view down the line for NXT with TNA talent included. With that being said, there's been nothing officially stated from WWE, and obviously we're missing the media scrum, but I don't believe anybody in the media scrum would be asking about this because I don't think many of those people actually watch TNA or cover TNA.
And
But
know enough to ask.
Yeah, so I don't know if they would be comfortable. I'm not sure. I can't speak for these guys. But what I would say is that, and it also depends on who's in the scrum. But what I would say is, in regards to an official partnership, I truly believe that WWE will never announce it. You never know. Maybe they do. But Jordan Gray said we'll see more of it. So what does it mean? How do they go about it? What do they do? I guess we can talk about this now. I think they did a lot in the, we're going to talk more about this with the Women's Royal Rumble, but they did a lot in the Women's Royal Rumble for TNA to look good. Yeah. Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, literally propping up TNA, propping up Jordan Grace. They allowed Jordan Grace to have a lot of moments in this match. This was not Mickie James coming into the Royal Rumble. This was the TNA Knockouts champion. When Naomi came back, they acknowledged the fact that she left WWE, won the Knockouts championship. Then when Jordan Grace comes out, Jordan Grace is who won. Naomi lost the women's champion, the Knockouts championship to Jordan Grace. So for me personally, I think WWE showed a lot of love for TNA. I think we will see a talent exchange at some point. I don't anticipate WWE sending massive stars to TNA. You never know. I'm not saying it's not possible, but what I'm saying is like the North American Championship can always potentially go there. I see more from NXT. What do you think, Billy?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's going to be an NXT thing, but I do want to say that somebody who has just started watching TNA back, right? Just going back to it. I believe that it's, you know, when you talk about like a main star going up there, I mean, maybe like an AJ Styles or somebody like that who's obviously worked in TNA in the past, and, you know, you could do something with him there. That's about as far as I'd go. You know, maybe people who do have a past within TNA. But people need to realize how big Jordan Grace actually is in this specific spot, right? Because you just said it. It's not Mickie James. And that's something that I actually talked to a friend of mine about. I said, listen, you know, because he was like, oh, well, they did it with Mickie James. Yeah, they did it with Mickie James, but Mickie James was always she was known for her time in WWE. People knew who she was. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they didn't know who Jordan Grace was, because guess what? They knew exactly who Jordan Grace was.
Yeah.
But at the time, I actually seen something on Twitter, and I know this is me just sitting up saying, but this is a true thing that actually happened at the time. Mickie James was in a verbal agreement with TNA.
Yeah.
When she entered the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
Jordan
she's
Grace.
Just to clarify, Mickie James has always kind of been like on a handshake deal. She hasn't really been like signed. Jordan Grace is a full-time wrestler.
And she's signed to TNA. So that's the difference in that comparison, right?
Yeah.
So, and then when you think of somebody who, because at the time I remember the Knockouts belt and how it looked, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't as appealing, right?
Yeah.
This time around, when you seen Jordan Grace walk out with that championship, I'm sorry, she looked like a huge deal. Because TNA has done everything in their power to revamp their show and make it that much better.
Yeah.
For moments like this.
Yeah.
Where, you know, they just do their largest gate at Hard to Kill in the last, 10 years?
Yeah. They had the larger gate than when Kurt Angle was there, and their TV ratings and their pay-per-view streaming buy rates have they beat the record. Like they beat their high. So
when you think about that, right, and you put that into perspective, they just made themselves look a lot better, because I guarantee, and this is one thing, the partnership, what does it mean? It means this: more people are about to go tune into what TNA is doing.
Yeah.
Because 40,000 people have all at least passed TNA and clicked in, right?
Yeah.
So those, well, even if you do a certain percentage and say you only get, we'll say 20,000. So you gravitate half. You get those new viewers to watch your show, and guess what? That's 20,000 new people that are tuning in to TNA, and maybe some of them stay for the weekly stuff. That's what I think this partnership is. I do believe that they will do the talent pool exchange at some point with NXT, but I think it's bigger than that. I think it actually has to do with viewership on the side of TNA.
One thing I've thrown out before, I'll throw this out again to reiterate. I often talk about TV deals on my channel, and obviously the big thing is that TNA needs a TV deal. Now, I'm not saying WWE will help TNA get a TV deal. I'm not saying any of that. But what I could see is some synergies with TNA going to CW. CW wants multiple wrestling companies. They wanted NWA. They
Is
kind
that
of screwed
something that they
themselves.
said?
The CW?
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Oh,
wanted
okay.
wrestling companies. Yeah. So they brought in NXT, and they were going to also have NWA as well. Now NWA is on the app. What I would say is you have a greater chance of WWE, because I don't know what their contract is. I'm not going to act like I know. But I think it's safe to say that WWE, if there's going to have any other wrestling companies on the thing, WWE would have to approve, right?
Yeah.
I can very much see and hope that the CW lands TNA Impact. One, it's a great weekly TV show. The production has improved a lot. The production is actually, it's funny I say this. I was telling people, I'm like, the production for some reason on Access TV, the quality looks like poop. But for some reason on TNA Plus, it is extremely higher quality. And I've heard people tell me the same thing is applied when they upload it on YouTube.
Yeah,
I don't know.
when sitting up and watching Hard to Kill, I remember that being something that you mentioned to me in the beginning of the show. I kind of breezed by it, but you were like, "Yeah, try and watch it on TNA Plus because it might be a little bit different."
I know people
You
who
wanted
watch
to
it on
see how the
Fight.
production looked.
Yeah, it was a big thing for me. Fight TV did not look good, but on TNA Plus it did. If WWE would approve of it, I could very much see CW getting TNA. It wouldn't be like this massively paid TV deal, but it would probably be to the point where, like, obviously TNA would benefit from it. And here's the thing: if WWE has NXT on the CW and TNA Impact on the CW, you got to make your TV partner happy, right?
Yep.
And for NXT, there's no risk of having TNA guys show up on NXT, and there's no risk of WWE showing up on TNA. And a perfect example, and this is where wrestling gets really fun. And I don't want you guys to think I'm reporting this because I'm not, but this is where fun theories could actually turn out to be realistic. TNA famously used to have the World X Cup. There had been rumors that this is something that Scott D'Amore was going to bring back. Now, if Scott D'Amore, who, by the way, has the partnership with AAA, can somehow go to WWE and say, hey, can you bring us Dragon Lee? Or, hey, can you bring us Charlie Dempsey? Hey, can you bring us like one of these UK guys, Noam Dar? Like, you can do some really cool stuff. And the best part about it would be if TNA was on the CW, there is a little bit more incentive for WWE to help them out.
Yep.
So to answer your question, Clicks, there's nothing officially announced. I did want to clarify something. Some people in the chat actually mentioned that Triple H did talk about this. He says he doesn't know what doors people come from, but they're open to doing good business with anyone if it makes sense, which is pretty much what Triple H has always said.
Yeah.
But it seems like WWE publicly acknowledging this is a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. Because he could have just easily been like, no, we're not doing, but this is one of those things where WWE propped up TNA on TV. WWE propped up Naomi's run on TNA, and they propped up Jordynne Grace, and they gave her moments in the match that really felt like a big deal. And that is completely different than Mickie James showing up, getting a pop, and on top of that, getting eliminated relatively fast. This was like, hey, you just had Jordynne Grace and Bianca Belair have a really dope moment. You had Jordynne Grace.
Dope.
Yes. And when you see Jordynne Grace doing offense on Natalya and all these other people, I'm thinking, you know what? I could see this happening. And I'm just saying this is me being realistic with myself because Jordynne Grace appeared. I could very much see WWE saying, hey, we're going to bring you back on for an episode of Raw or SmackDown. You know, I can see these types of things happening, but at the same time too, you got to remember these types of surprises, they cannot be disruptors. For example, Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yep.
But like, you can't have Jordan Grace come in and disrupt a program, but you can do something with Jordan Grace temporarily, one-offs, that type of thing.
Right.
Just as an example.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Clicks, thank you for the super chat again. Jana dropping a $9.99. Did you notice they said that the Women's Royal Rumble winner would main event WrestleMania? Punk doesn't have to main event right away. I think he signed a 3-year deal. Trust the process. It is Cody's time. His will come soon. So yes, there are 2 main events, though. We got to keep that in mind. WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2. I think WrestleMania Night 2 is I think it's cemented. Cody versus Roman.
Yeah.
Night 1, there's literally 100 different matches I could think of that can main event.
Can I be honest with you? I totally agree with this. I think Punk still has a lot of time. It depends. Is Triple H going to cement the idea that both Royal Rumble matches, men or women, is just as important as the other? Probably. That's what it comes down to. Because if that's the case, then yes, Bayley and what I'm gonna guess is Io Sky should 100% main event. And this is from somebody who is a huge CM Punk fan who has 100% backed the idea of Punk main eventing Night 1. So at the end of the day, it comes down to Triple H. What's his thought process? Does he want to live up that? Listen, no, at the end of the day, the main event is the main event.
Yeah.
And the Royal Rumble winners, that's what they get.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do I see this being the case? Yeah, just give me a good build.
Brother, I'll tell you right now, here's the thing. Bayley won the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, she did.
So if Bayley won the Royal Rumble and they're saying she's going to main event WrestleMania, I have zero problem with Io Sky versus Bayley. Damage Control is one of the biggest storylines that they've been pushing for a year now.
It's as big as the Bloodline.
It's massive. I love actually this. There's one more super chat and then we'll segue to the Women's Rumble. But I just love the fact that with Bayley winning the Rumble, she came in at number 3. She made history. She's the longest entrant in the match. I love the fact that when Bayley won, they still cut to the camera of Io Sky backstage watching the TV because Io Sky and Damage Control and what they've done has been really good. And I'm not going to lie to you, brother. I thought they were going to split up Damage Control or kick Bayley out at the Rumble. And these fucking bastards, they're going to make me tune into SmackDown to see how they go and tell that story. So they want me to keep watching. And the thing is, we're not stupid. We all know it's coming because that's the story they've been telling on television.
Yeah.
But now that Bayley won the Rumble, again, predictable isn't always bad. That was one of those things I actually really enjoyed. Jana, thank you so much for the super chat. We got another super chat from Andre Benson. I get what you guys were saying about the crowd reaction. To me, I think it does help the shows with a hot crowd. I think it does help the shows with hot crowds, a fan of wrestling since the Attitude Era. You know, I think it's an interesting thing, right? Because I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the crowds, it's just my personal opinion, but when it comes to the crowds, I think the crowds have always kind of been in a situation where I understand how they dictate like the energy of the show and stuff, but for me, I don't care. Like if the crowd is good, great. Obviously you feel it, but I'm not really paying attention to that. That's just kind of the way I see it. With that being said though, Andre, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. I think we should turn our attention to the Women's Royal Rumble because holy shit, that was my match of the night.
Okay.
Which is, it's not like unanimous, right? Because I thought everything was pretty fire. But the Women's Rumble, Billy made a good point earlier. He said, you know, the show is starting off with surprises and things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The momentum was really good. You know, in the pre-show, you had Triple H kick off the show, like, are you ready? That type of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get Natalya coming out and then Naomi, whatever. Billy, talk to me about the Women's Royal Rumble. Tell me what you thought about the Women's Royal Rumble match.
all around beautiful. It was amazing, and it led up with hype, it led up with excitement, it led up with all of those really, really good things. And all the way around, like when I see Jade Cargill on my TV, I get very excited. I was excited for her in AEW. So seeing her in WWE makes me excited. When you put her up and you make her look as strong as she did with Nia Jax, those things get me excited. When I see Bailey, she's legitimately, technically, in a sense. I mean, I know she didn't start at number one, but she felt like the Iron Man in this,
Yeah.
right? Those things tell me that, hey, these women are important. And again, it goes back to just little conversations that I have with friends of mine and stuff like that. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, listen, like really pay attention to what's going on here, because this is just as big as what you're going to see later.
Yeah.
And I think that's literally Triple H is known for the women's evolution. So you best believe that these women are about to be booked just as good as the men.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, because they're working just as hard as the men. So when I see Bailey get the shine that she deserves, and I'll even use last night, the Kabuki Warriors winning the tag team championships. When I see
Yeah.
things like that, that tells me that, hey, listen, this shit right here is just as important as the other shit.
Yeah.
And get ready, because, hey, there's a chance that, no, we might not get a CM Punk main event on night one, and it could be Bailey and Io Sky. And guess who's fine with that? Me.
Yeah.
Fine with it.
I
So
think no,
go ahead.
continue. No, continue. You lagged for a second. Go ahead.
So all I'm saying is that this all just feels special. It feels good. It feels right. In that match, it felt magical. Like 100% hands down the best women's rumble that I've seen yet. And that's
Yeah.
where I'll end it.
I 100% agree. I think it was the greatest women's Royal Rumble. And one thing I really, really want to just give props to whoever produced the match. First of all, great job, because I feel like everything was logical. The eliminations were logical. The moments were logical. But there was a certain magic to this match, and I feel like this is, okay, perfect example. I know there's some people who tweet, they're like, oh, they're not getting reactions. They need to book their women better. No. Nope. It's not booking. Get it right. What they need to do is continue booking them, but also you got to do your part as a viewer. Actually watch the fucking show.
Right.
Because I had somebody, which I was mind boggled by this DM. And, during the show, it's rather difficult sometimes to keep up with every tweet and every DM and every message in Discord and stuff, because I'm trying to watch the show and take notes. But they're like, I don't understand why they commentary made a big deal out of Tegan Knox and Natalia's eliminations. And I'm like, you don't watch the show, because they've been tag teaming.
Right.
Now, the thing is, if you watch the show and you see that these eliminations happen, yeah, I understand they're not getting the biggest fucking reaction, but it's not because of booking. It's because the theme music fucking sucks. That's the reality. They don't have memorable music for people to understand. So when Candice LeRae comes out and I see people outraged by it, it's like, no, if you watch TV, you would know that Candice LeRae is on TV and doing stuff with Indy Hartwell. I don't expect you to know the theme song, because I don't think the theme songs are good. But I think at the same time, too, I would fully expect Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell in the Royal Rumble, because they're on television. It's the same reason why you saw Zoe Stark and Shayna. It's the same reason why you saw Katana Chance. And it's the same reason why you saw Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. So when Piper Niven catches Chelsea Green, it's like, well, it makes sense, because she is the one who's constantly saving Chelsea Green. So for me, I'm never enraged about this or outraged about this type of stuff. But for me, I'm enjoying it, because I'm like, I appreciate the fact that a lot of the stuff that happens on TV kind of remained a consistent trend with the Royal Rumble.
It's just good storytelling.
And so therefore, right, this is where I pop really big. We talked about Naomi, we talked about Jordynne Grace. I fully expected Jade Cargill, when she joined WWE, to debut at the Rumble. And I swear, I am not saying this without sincerity. This is 100% what I truly believe. Tonight, I saw a future WrestleMania main event. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair had aura. Now, this is where I get a little bit frustrated with social media, and this is why I don't sit on social media while watching the show. I seen people, maybe they have a following, maybe they don't. But when I saw Jade Cargill hit Becky Lynch with a super kick, and I see that moment, and then she goes face to face with Bianca Belair, I was like, this girl has it. Now, here's the thing. I knew she had it.
Always. Yep.
AEW did present her as a star. I don't care what these fucking tribalists will tell you. AEW never fumbled Jade Cargill. They fumbled the chance to keep Jade Cargill because that is true. It's evidently true because she's in the Royal Rumble. But AEW presented Jade Cargill as a star. When I see her face to face with Bianca Belair, I'm thinking, I know Jade isn't the greatest wrestler in the world, but how does it feel to see her in this Royal Rumble, get off some great spots, eliminate Nia Jax with strength, to hit a super kick and to do these moves and to do what you're supposed to do, have your moments. She did great on all of those aspects of this match. But when I saw, and you sent me that picture, which I appreciated you sending me that screenshot because that was something I really want to talk about.
Yes, sir.
You see a screenshot of Jade and 3 other women sitting by the barricade, and it looks like they're all disappointed in themselves for not winning the Rumble. And that, to me, was a very nice image. And you know why, Billy?
Why is that?
I have nothing against Charlotte. I have nothing against Becky. I have nothing against Bayley. I have nothing against the 4 horsewomen of WWE.
Yep.
But to me, I always wonder, okay, who else will step up? If there's no Sasha, if there's no this, if there's no that person, whatever.
Who's going to step up and take the reins and run with it?
And tonight's Royal Rumble cemented to me that WWE is in very good hands. Very
100%.
good hands.
100%.
Bianca and Jade Cargill is a WrestleMania main event. I do not give a shit who will try to argue this with me, because I am not talking about a WrestleMania main event filled with hundreds of incredible moves, which, by the way, we know Bianca could do it. And I have a lot more confidence in Jade's wrestling ability by going to the PC and working the WWE system, because what Jade needs to do is work a slower, methodical match. She needs to be, and I don't know if this is like a fair comparison, but it's one of the things I do enjoy about Roman Reigns matches. Roman Reigns is the aura. When he's in the ring, it's his cockiness. It's the way he acts and the way he talks and the way he's, it's the small things, right?
Yep.
If they could program that into Jade Cargill and you put her with somebody else who is a fantastic wrestler, I think it's going to create magic. Jade Cargill lost the Royal Rumble, and I swear I was like very impressed. Very, very impressed. And I always expected her to do well in WWE, because I remember saying in AEW, she never gets to wrestle. She only squashes people. Like, she's never in meaningful feuds and meaningful stories. And her wins and losses were padded. And that wasn't a knock towards AEW, but AEW was never really going on. They were never going to develop her more than WWE can. And again, it's not a knock on AEW, but AEW doesn't do performance centers. WWE has a performance center, and they've created stars out of that performance center. They have trainers. And I'm not saying it's better than AEW or worse than AEW, but for what the WWE style is, Jade belongs in the WWE. She proved not only does she deserve to be there, but when I saw Bayley win the Royal Rumble and I see Bayley win this match, I'm like, great, because that's what the TV stuff has been showing me. But for Jade Cargill to come out, and she had like a remixed version
of
same version
like
of
CM Punk's.
Yeah, it's like her AEW theme song, but she's got like the storm is here, right? Corey Graves on commentary, and like you could tell that they know what they're doing with her. I have a lot of trust with WWE with Jade. Now I want to see Jade in singles action.
Yeah,
and I really do. That to me is like, this girl is fucking great. And by the way, We had that moment with Bianca and Jade. We saw the great eliminations by Jade. Phenomenal, right? But now I want to see Jade versus Becky. I want to see Jade versus Bailey. I want to see Jade versus Charlotte. I want to see Jade versus everyone. Why? Because in the amount of time that she spent in that Royal Rumble match, she came across as a big deal to me. That's not something I expected to say with Jade Cargill. I swear. Not because I don't have belief in Jade Cargill. It's because I didn't know if I necessarily had the belief in WWE to take Jade Cargill and, like I was saying with the PC, like some people just naturally, like there's people that have gone to WWE and they just don't work out. Sami Callihan was one. Sami Callihan went to WWE, never really worked out.
No,
But if you go watch Sami Callihan matches in TNA, like
worked
he
out
had some,
fine.
yeah, exactly. So just sometimes the fit isn't always there,
Right.
despite how good the PC could be. Some people just don't pan out. And I was kind of worried, like maybe this wouldn't work. But I give them a lot of freaking props, dude, because that to me, you had the surprises, you had the moments, you had all of these great things happen in this match. But for me, it was really the thank you for making me believe that this person could potentially win.
And I think it goes down to like how they necessarily had brought Jade in, right? I
Yeah.
felt like they needed, maybe it was their own thoughts in the WWE, that they needed to get Jade right,
Yeah.
because everything with Jade looks right.
Yeah.
There was just always that kind of hindrance that she wasn't the best wrestler with that. Go ahead.
No, I don't know if I read this, but just continue. We'll kind of
Yeah.
blend
Okay.
in.
So I think it goes down to more of a WWE thing. Like they knew that they needed to get Jade right, and to say that they didn't, you would be completely wrong. I think that they hit it out of the park with Jade. It truly did impress me when I seen her come out in the way that she did, and then like you said, all the things with Charlotte and Bianca and what they can do in the future and stuff like that. The one that stuck out to me the most was Nia Jax. Nia Jax and Jade Cargill will probably be the route that they go, because they didn't tell us whether she's on SmackDown or Raw.
Yeah.
But my guess is she's going to be on Raw, and that's just me guessing here. And I think they're going to start with the Nia Jax feud, and I think that's a great starter feud, right?
Yeah.
I think Nia Jax, if you look at her development as well, has completely, I mean, it's second to none, right? Her development with the new regime has been outstanding, and the way that she's being booked and all of those things are absolutely outstanding. I love seeing it. So when I see Jade Cargill and I see Nia Jax, I think back to a time of when, hey, she wasn't the best in AEW and Nia Jax wasn't the best before. But we look at this world that we're in now, and now it looks huge. So my expectation is that Jade will be wrestling Nia Jax at the Elimination Chamber.
It wouldn't be a bad idea for them to go a singles route. I don't know. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but what I will say is this. Because I contemplate this idea too. Jade right now is an attraction. She carries the aura.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things going on that WWE has planted the seeds to on TV, which was Becky and Rhea, right?
Yeah.
Which I think we're going to get there through a women's elimination chamber match. Bailey versus Io is obviously going to happen at Mania. So for me, I'm starting to get the impression of like, what if you kind of hold off on the Jade Cargill thing? You have some singles matches here and there. You get her warmed up before you give her a big feud. But I would love nothing more than for kind of like what they did with Punk, but actually draw this out a little bit.
Yeah, you can
have Jade on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT.
Yeah, and have him playing with the GMs and stuff like that.
Play into it.
Because now they see what she looks like, and they've seen her now.
They saw her in the Rumble.
Yeah, I like that.
I would literally have Jade Cargill on Raw backstage segment, and Adam Pearce is like, okay, let's discuss some terms. This is what I want to do, And then she'll say, thank you, Adam, but it would only be right if I spoke with everyone. She shows up to NXT.
This would be a great time for her to have smart Mark Sterling.
Right. Well, there's a guy in NXT, Lucas Crucifino or whatever.
Yeah, he's a lawyer.
Yeah, they could do that, but I prefer that they don't do that. I would like for them to kind of go this fresh route with her. But it was nice. And one thing I did want to praise, Andre, I don't know if I read your super chat, so I appreciate the $2. I popped for the stare off, right? I did. I genuinely did. I was like, okay, cool. I remember in AEW talking about like potential feuds and stories that she could do in WWE. I'm glad we got a glimpse, right? We got a glimpse of what it's going to look like with her in WWE. I thought it was well put. But
Yeah.
what I kind of wanted to tell you guys too was I appreciated that WWE did something here different from the men's Rumble, yet kind of the same. If you look at the final 4 women in the women's Royal Rumble, or really the final 3, because Liv Morgan came out at number 30. The men's Rumble had Sami Zayn return. The women's Rumble had
Liv Morgan
return. The end of the men's Rumble, very similar to last year, the final 2 just keep wrestling.
Yeah.
The women's Rumble is, how can we protect all of these individuals by getting fast eliminations so they're not in there getting their ass beat for 20 minutes and then it's like one-on-one elimination, right? So when you look at how Jade gets eliminated and how Liv Morgan gets eliminated and Bayley wins, you're protecting. I appreciate the fact that with the booking of how it's handled, you're protecting Jade. You're protecting Liv Morgan, who returned. You're now adding a little bit of credibility to Liv Morgan, right? She comes out at 30. People are happy. People are excited. She looks good. She's getting a reaction. Like,
Liv Morgan is great at number 30.
But you take out Jade and then Bayley takes you out. It's like, oh shit. It's not like Jade really got screwed, but it's not like Jade had to go wrestle.
Liv Morgan was still booked in booking, right? In booking terms, she was booked well in that position because she does not look weak, because she just eliminated the one person who was meant to look like a star in that moment.
Yeah.
Very good stuff by the WWE. And I remember in one of our last chats, somebody was blowing us up about Liv Morgan, and man, was he right.
Yeah, no, that was the funniest thing. I swear I got to go back to that old video and find where he was, because it was funny.
He was blowing us up about Liv Morgan, and I was like, yeah, maybe.
I met Liv Morgan at WrestleMania 34.
She's probably so sweet. She looks very sweet.
She was a very, very nice person. We had a selfie, bro, and I swear I was like 350 pounds or some shit. I don't know. I was like really fat, but but it was funny because I remember I took a picture with her. We took a picture together, and it was like very brief conversation on Bourbon Street or whatever. But she was just very, very nice. And the thing is, like, I've learned, like, obviously doing YouTube and like just kind of interacting with people, and there's some wrestlers you become very cool with or whatever.
Yeah,
I always think of, like, for me personally, like I can differentiate like a character and then the wrestler and how they're portrayed,
It's like an actor.
With Liv Morgan, I feel like WWE has just always presented her in such a great way, like in terms of like her character and just like the way she is,
That's why I always appreciated them about Bayley for a long time.
So this is what I was gonna say, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious if WWE ever tell me what you think, right? Jade Cargill could be a massive babyface, she could be a massive heel. I think you got to make the money as a babyface now and then eventually do the heel turn, right?
Yeah.
With Liv Morgan, very babyface vibes. I'm curious what you think about Liv Morgan completely switching it up.
Yeah, I love it. You literally just redo the Bayley thing. It's been long enough. You could legitimately redo it with Liv Morgan, because Liv Morgan, like you said, all smile, love, she really had to go through it to finally get the moment but she didn't get her moment.
Yeah.
She got it at Money in the Bank, and what'd she do? Hold it for a month, maybe 2? Wasn't long enough. Fans turned on her, right? Yeah. The whole thing happened to her that we all knew about, right?
Yeah.
Come on, man. It's simple storytelling. I love Liv being a heel. Let her be one. We need another one.
It's interesting because when I met her, like I said, she was just such a sweetheart. Like, she was just super nice,
Again,
and
you just have to know how to differentiate.
But I feel like, and that's a big thing too. There's a lot of people who enjoy her work, but I feel like, man, when I look at Raw,
not everybody can stay the same though.
What do you think she benefits from turning heel?
Yeah, I think she benefits huge from it. Look at Bayley and how much Bayley benefited from turning heel. I don't associate, I'll tell you, and this is real. I don't associate Bayley with the balloons and the smiles and the hugs. I don't associate her with that anymore.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when Bayley turned heel and how I thought it was a joke, and I was like, this is never going to work. Then the pandemic happens. She controlled the pandemic,
Yeah.
right? She controlled it.
Yeah.
Then I remember the damage control thing happened. Then it kind of went nowhere, and everybody was like, this is never going to work, blah, blah, blah. Then it worked. Again, let things play out. Don't let them just happen. And again, I'm one person who myself can be and take account for that sometimes we just need to let things play out. So yeah, I do think Liv will, because you have to understand who's doing it too. Triple H would be the one under this heel turn and what can go on here.
Yeah.
I think she would benefit highly from a heel turn.
You know, it's so funny saying this, honestly. When Bayley turned heel, I mean, she really did carry WWE through the pandemic. That's why I'm so glad. A lot of people don't know Bayley never had a singles match at WrestleMania.
Nope.
So like, let's just get that
she
out
was
of the
like
way.
In like the 6-pack challenge and stuff like that.
And she always doing like, you know, she did the tag team thing too. But
yeah,
I was really delighted. I was actually really ecstatic when I saw Bayley win, because Bayley is one of those people where, like, if you follow her on social media, she has a huge passion for this wrestling stuff. She has a huge passion for this industry and what she does and everything. But like, I feel like with Bayley, you know, you see the emotion on her face when she wins. And really, I mean, you see it throughout all night. There's like a genuine happiness when you see Ivy Nile and Jordan Grace doing the suplex and the looking at each other. Like, there's like a genuine, like, real raw emotion coming from everybody on the show.
Yeah.
And when Bayley wins, it's like you kind of gravitate towards that, because you're like, it just feels real and authentic. And then obviously as a fan, you're proud because you know that she hasn't had that moment, and you know what she's capable of doing because we saw it in NXT, right? What I loved about this was the one match. Well, really all the matches, I feel like the losers all looked really well.
Yeah,
right?
they did. Yeah,
honestly, a lot of props to WWE for that. But this was like the one match where it really stood out significant to me, where I was like, damn, bro, Liv Morgan just stood in the final 3 as a credible
number. Like, she was number 2 technically.
Yeah, like, she's like very credible. Jade looked credible. Bianca, a top star who didn't get ruined by this. And then what's really funny, Nia Jax, who had some really good spots in this match. And I loved what they did with Chelsea Green. And I love the fact that Chelsea Green goes into the ring and almost gets eliminated right away again, you know, and like, they're doing all these different spots. I watch the show every week and I was like, fuck, everybody looked good. I did not find a scenario. I swear there was not one person in this match where I was like, they looked weak.
No.
I'm sure there was, but there was not one while I was watching.
Maybe. But everything coincided with the next. That was the whole thing about this match, is that everything coincided.
Yeah,
it all made logical sense. And that's all I ask for out of my pro wrestling. I don't know what you ask for out of yours or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But out of mine, I ask that it's just coincides. It all makes sense. Dude, when Bayley won, if you want like the fan reaction to that, when Bayley won, dude, I was so happy.
Yeah.
Bayley winning genuinely made me happy, and it brought me back to a time where it's like I remember her as a baby face for a moment.
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm like,
it's time.
Yeah, and what this reminds me of, dude, and I think maybe just knowing who again is running the show and how they're going to do it, it reminds me a lot of Batista in 2005, where he's still a part of Evolution, right? He's still with Triple H, he's still with Ric Flair, but at some point, she's going to have to choose who she wants to face at Mania. And I think Damage Control is eventually going to just get under her skin so much that she just has to choose EO.
How long do you think they wait until they do that, though? Let me ask you.
A little bit past. It depends. A little bit past the Elimination Chamber. Maybe like a week or two. And then, because I think you're going to start seeing it played into really highly now. I think you're going to start seeing like a lot of things with the Kabuki Warriors first. I think it starts with Kairi Sane.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's where the trickle-down effect comes.
Yeah.
And then the last person who's gonna watch it from the sideline is gonna be Dakota Kai. Who doesn't do anything about it. Right? And then finally, you have Io Sky. who is obviously going to side with the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane.
Yeah.
So I think WWE has it very well mapped out.
You want to create a new star off of this?
Yeah, go ahead.
War Games, NXT. There was a moment where they had Dakota Kai turn on Tegan Nox.
Tegan Nox. Yep, I remember that.
I'm trying to remember it all together, but I just remember she's like beating her ass basically, you know, with the cage
Before
or whatever.
the match
cage.
happened.
Yeah. When Dakota Kai turned heel, I was like, oh, this is fire. A lot of people who don't know like before WWE, then it's hard for them to understand. But like obviously I knew who she was. When she went to NXT, before NXT, she was always a great wrestler. Obviously, she's been dealt a bad hand with this injury.
Mm-hmm.
I would never be opposed to Dakota Kai being the baby face that actually sides with Bayley, which is kind of a swerve because on TV, Dakota Kai is kind of the one who's like running damage control without them telling you she's running damage control in a way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I would love for Bayley to feel like she has a friend with Dakota Kai.
Yep.
And I think it's all about making Bayley the ultimate babyface. So for fantasy booking long term, Dakota Kai should be Money in the Bank winner, and she's the one who takes the belt off of Bayley. She cashes in. She makes Bayley feel like everything's good. She sides with her, but she's not doing that for Bayley. She's doing it for herself because eventually.
I think I may have predicted Dakota Kai winning the Money in the Bank, and I think it makes a lot of sense to have her win it at the end of the day. When you genuinely like put it all into perspective, I think she's the person to do it.
What's cool about that though? What's cool about that prediction, right? It's just predictions, but
yeah.
What's cool about it is with WWE right now in the women's division, they can go several ways. They can really go several ways.
Yeah, we're talking just about SmackDown. We're not even talking about Raw.
And we're not talking about roster changes because also tonight we saw Tiffany Stratton and Roxanne Perez, who did a very good job in the Rumble.
Love seeing Roxanne Perez on my TV. Made me happy.
Yeah. You know what was interesting? We didn't get Raquel.
No, I haven't seen much of her though on TV.
She's going through some health issues.
That's what I heard.
But I thought it was interesting because we'll get one of those little Twitter accounts, you know, with like 1,000 followers or whatever, was like, oh, Raquel's going to be the Iron Woman. And I was just waiting for it. I was like, I already knew it was some bullshit.
Yeah.
I was just waiting and waiting. So that's
Stop
how you
buying
guys
Twitter blue.
So here's the thing, guys. That's how you buying Twitter blues. I mean, it's got its advantages, you know, but if you're going to spread fake bullshit,
yeah,
like
don't buy Twitter blue and spread fake news. That was a tongue twister.
Yeah. Nah, it's just crazy. Mike just posted in the chat. He goes, which I love this. He goes, Dakota Kai is a shit best friend. Just ask Raquel Rodriguez. She is, bro. She is. But Bayley needs a good friend, and maybe Dakota Kai can mess with her a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
It would be very advantageous, especially because Triple H booking NXT. He always did the typical best friends breaking up type of shit. And for me personally, it's like I could see them going that route, and it makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
I think the big thing is really for Dakota Kai long term, if she's healthy and cleared from her injury, can you do something with her that makes her a big star? And if you do this type of thing with her, where she gains the trust of Bayley, and they really become closer than ever, and then she's the one that rips it apart. I mean, it makes Bayley's babyface turn even better.
Yep.
But it makes Dakota Kai's heel turn like
that much better.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize that Dakota Kai right now is kind of like, I mean, just where she stands, she's kind of the oddball out in the whole damage control storyline. She really is right now. It again, I talk about the Batista thing where Ric Flair and Batista, right?
Yeah.
At the time with Triple H too. But at the time, Ric Flair kind of stood and then eventually went on and turned on, you know, Triple H when it happened. It could be the same thing with Dakota Kai. Yeah. It's simple storytelling. You don't have to do too much with it. I like it a lot. I, in fact, love it. I think that when they do part ways with damage control, I do think that, like you said, Dakota Kai should join Bayley in departing ways with them.
It could go a million ways. It's going to be super interesting.
It can, because imagine if Bayley just, you're my best friend, da da da. Cool. And like you said, Money in the Bank. take it all away from her in the most opportunistic time. Snatch it and rip it right from under her. I want Edge John Cena style.
It could work.
It could. That's all I'm saying. I know we're fantasy booking here, but
yeah. Overall, Women's Royal Rumble was my match of the night.
Yep.
Best Women's Rumble of all time. Again, goes back to what we were saying earlier. I don't really give a shit about the crowd reacting.
No.
I don't really care what Twitter tells me. I'm very firm on it had everything. It had its great moments. It had its great spots. It had the great storytelling. It had the great moments and more moments. It had the aura of what you would ask for. Booking wise, producing wise, you protected a lot of people in the match. They all looked great, even with being eliminated. You're setting up stories with this match. You're telling stories with this match. The typical stuff that I hate about Royal Rumble was not in this particular Royal Rumble. There was not, and I got shit for this the other day, Billy, because I said, I don't want legends in the Royal Rumble.
Nope.
I know why people want legends. I get it. I'm sorry, but it's the same legends every year. So this year, I was like, one Royal Rumble down, and I didn't have to see a whole bunch of legends come in and just take up a spot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Tori Wilson didn't pop up on my TV.
And I love Tori Wilson.
So do I. Yes,
love Tori Wilson.
Oh, do you now? Do you now?
But at the same time, too, I want to focus on the now and the future, and they did that. And on top of that, they gave me a fucking TNA debut, somebody who I'm personally a major fan of, and they didn't bury her.
She's a damn juggernaut.
And I'll say this: if there was one little downfall to the Women's Rumble match, I would be remiss if I didn't say this. And I don't. It's hard because I'm not a wrestler, so I feel I never like talking about somebody's wrestling skills. Maxine is a very, very big work in progress with the women's match, with the women's wrestling stuff. Working in a match, especially one of this caliber where there's like so much stuff going on. I appreciated her effort a lot because she actually did have a couple good moments.
Yeah.
But that was like the only downside to it was like when she first came into the match, she was kind of struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
But the thing about Maxine is she's incredibly good at getting people to react, which was nice. But if there was like one downfall to that match, I would say Maxine, she's in the ring with so many other great performers. And Maxine to me is a very strong character. And she's a great storyteller, and she's great with like the comedy stuff. You know what I'm saying? That would be maybe my biggest thing of like, hey, I would love to see her improve in the ring because she's so good at these other things. But I texted you, I was like, I would love to see Maxine get a Maven style elimination.
Which would have been cool. Obviously, I think like maybe if she like eliminated like Nia Jax, for instance, that would have been insane.
Well, you can't do that because Jade took out Nia Jax, but maybe like Piper Niven or something.
Right. Just one of those big, or like a Valhalla or something like that.
Yeah. So obviously, which by the way, shout out to Piper Niven and Chelsea Green because they entertained the shit out of me.
And just want to say real fast, one person that I love more than Tori Wilson is Tiffany Stratton, and I got to see her on my TV today, and that made me happy.
Her and Roxanne Perez killed it. NXT was represented very well tonight.
Yes.
But I will say, I did want to point out the fact that I just felt like it was a very, very good match, very fun match, a lot of surprises. I like the ending, protecting everybody. But the last thing I will say about the women's match, surprisingly, people didn't like it, but I understand wrestling is subjective. But my God, did I fucking almost cry seeing R-Truth. That
bro, that shit was so funny.
That fucking guy kills me, bro, because he goes in. Okay, the women's match, he goes in instead of Valhalla. He's like confused, like, hey, what? Like, he's so confused. Then he gets thrown out by Nia Jax. Cool. But then it's even funnier when he goes into the men's Royal Rumble match, like, oh, he's finally supposed to be in the match, right? Then he goes and does the hot tag, and he goes and tries to do John Cena's, 5-knuckle shuffle.
That was in the men's.
Like, that shit was funny to me.
So
I love it.
It was the backstage stuff that sent me.
Yes. Oh my God, when he's holding the baseballs and stuff
and
too.
He said, "What happened to your hair?"
God.
he said, Nick Mysterio, that dude is a national treasure, should be thought of as one,
Yeah.
needs to be protected at all costs. That guy is amazing in every step of the way. And if you don't like R-Truth, I think you may be upset with yourself. And
Like I said, wrestling is subjective, but it's the one thing that where I'm like, I'm pretty how the fuck can you not like this guy? He brightens it up, bro. And
yeah,
it's like the
dude.
women's rumble. And it's funny because he literally gets tossed out by Nia Jax, which it just continues to show Nia Jax's dominance or whatever.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But he's so funny. And then just the fact that he went into the men's Royal
Well, can
Rumble.
we talk about Dom playing into the hot tag?
Yeah. He's fucking this Judgment Day shit is so funny, bro.
It took two to tango, and Dom played into the hot tag.
Yeah, but look who eliminated R-Truth.
Damian Priest.
Seeds planted, brother. There's something about Damian Priest. He's tired of all the shenanigans now.
Yeah, so but it is questionable. How are we going to book him? Although I will say at the end of the Rumble when I think he was like what, one of the last 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can work him as a babyface, and I think that's going to be the plan, is to work.
It's
him
inevitable.
As a babyface. Yeah,
brother. These are things. It's funny. It's like I said about Cody before 39, now going into Mania. There's a long-term vision for everything. Triple H has not gotten off track. He knows Damian Priest and Finn Balor, they're going to break up, and he knows what they're doing, and that's
a plan ahead of us.
There's no worries there. Whatever's about to happen with Money in the Bank, it's going to happen the way they intended, and the Judgment Day splitting up will happen the way it's intended.
I'm very happy with how my wrestling has turned out recently.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that in whole, wrestling has turned out to be very, very well.
And it's funny. I was joking on Twitter or whatever with Tony Khan. He put out a tweet, and I was just joking. Yeah. I was just having fun on Twitter, but I respond to his tweet.
God, you were having fun on Twitter. Don't do that.
Jade just did this and did that, justified it, holy shit chance, whatever. I'm just fucking around. I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really good time because even, wrestling fans will get lost in the numbers of attendance and ratings and this and that bullshit. What I get lost in is the TV show that I'm watching. And I feel like WWE, obviously in the past year, has just been really, really good. But I feel like in the last month or so, AEW is starting to get back on track as well. So it's like, for me as a viewer, plus I see TNA and some of the changes that they've made, which I've always loved TNA, but these changes are like the icing on top,
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, fuck, dude, I'm enjoying wrestling right now. And it's a great thing to have that. I don't care about all this other bullshit that people will bring up about ratings and viewership and attendance and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it a conversation? Sure. Is it something I care about? No, because it does not change the way I think about a product. And to be honest with you, I don't care if it's the popular opinion. I just care that it's my opinion. And so that's why when I see R-Truth doing all this crazy shit, I start laughing and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I don't know why I'm laughing at this, but it made me laugh. And that's the best part.
Yeah, it is.
Andre Benson dropping a $5 super chat. He says, questions. How long has R-Truth been doing that gimmick? It never gets old. I don't know, brother. That's like the funny thing. It's
been like his thing for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, dude, like I said, even the women's rumble, because all throughout the night, it's like they've been doing this stuff, but he comes out to the women's rumble and Valhalla too. Like,
yeah. And you see it happen. You see her get eliminated while they're panned on R-Truth and Adam Pearce. I'm like, man, this is good TV because she was like tripping in the background.
Yeah, bro. I don't know what's going to come from it.
I don't know either, but it is hilarious.
I would expect more to come from the Damian Priest thing, obviously.
Right, exactly. I do agree.
Last 2 matches, I don't want to spend too much time on because realistically, that's not the most important thing.
And it's 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
On our side.
Yeah. So Roman Reigns, obviously, we kind of touched on it too, but Roman Reigns defeated AJ, LA Knight, and Randy Orton. The only notes that I wrote down here was very different from Roman Reigns matches in terms of like pace and stuff. Very similar to what they do with Solo Sikoa. So let's just kind of jump into it, Billy.
Yeah.
Solo Sikoa. I thought everything was great except for Solo Sikoa.
Really?
Yeah. What'd you think?
I actually, well, number one, I think we get Solo, and like I thought up until tonight, I thought that we were going to get Randy and Nick Aldis,
Yeah.
it's looking like it's going to lead up to Solo and Randy. And I think if you want to give Solo a good solo wrestling match,
Yeah.
no better person than Randy Orton. It looks big right away.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I'm not a big fan of this idea that Solo Sikoa is just going to constantly get in Roman's matches and help Roman.
Yeah.
It
was
I'm
so expected
anticipating.
on my end, at least.
No, he was expected for me. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I don't. At this point, it's become the same thing every single time.
Right.
And I'm praying that Solo Sikoa has had enough of Roman Reigns bullshit, so that way when Cody finishes the story at WrestleMania, Solo is not involved.
Well, my thing is
They're not going to do that, by the way. Cody is going to beat Roman because of
Very
Solo
clean.
Sikoa fucked up, and yeah, it's going to be shenanigans, and that's how Cody's going to win.
I do believe that after WrestleMania, there's still a little bit more story to be told with Roman Reigns, and they need to do that.
Yeah.
Before, and I hope that Roman does have the right mindset into doing that, which I think he does. SummerSlam, you do him and Solo.
Yeah.
I think that needs to happen.
At some point.
At some point, it has to happen, right?
Yeah.
So it just, I will agree with you on the stance of like this felt very different from all of Roman Reigns' matches, I think, when it comes to pacing. Not only that, I think it was more the less about like just the way it was booked too, right? If I think of matches that Roman has had, I'm not gonna lie, this is the weakest one that I've seen. This is the weakest Roman Reigns match because he looked the weakest in this match. If you want me to be 100% honest.
I'm glad you said that though, because I have a theory on it.
Okay, bring it on. Would love to hear the theory.
The more that Roman goes on, the more he's become dependent on the bloodline.
Yep.
The more that he continues to do this, his body's deteriorating over time.
He's tired.
I genuinely appreciate the fact that they almost had AJ. Like, I swear to God, bro, it looked like AJ was winning.
I thought he was.
And there was a moment where it was like fucking LA Knight's about to win.
Randy Orton.
The spear or the Superman punch turned into an RKO.
RKO. Oh.
Like, there was moments where I was like, okay, they're really starting, and they've been doing this. People who watch know this.
LA Knight was the first person that I really noticed it with.
But it's happened before that, right?
It has.
But it continues to happen where the more matches he has, it's like he's getting closer and closer to losing. When Roman almost got pinned, I was like, they're gonna fucking swerve us. Predictable outcome for sure, but I was like, they're trying. They might actually swerve us. They might have him drop the belt, which is a nice feeling to have in the middle of a match where you feel like it's predictable.
Yes.
Personally speaking, I don't care for the Solo Sikoa stuff because it didn't involve the finish. If it involved the finish, I'd be like, it makes sense because he's a heel, but it didn't really involve the finish. The only other point that I had that I wrote down as a note, which I know for a fact you agree with because we talked about it, but it's a good thing. It's the fact that LA Knight wasn't pinned. It was a really interesting choice to have AJ pinned, but the finishing sequence was actually very good because it protected Randy and it protected LA Knight. And AJ Styles is going through a dark path right now, which in order for that path to continue developing as a storyline, he had to take the pin.
Guess where I seen that at?
Where'd you see it?
TNA wrestling.
Yeah. So it's cool. I like that. We're getting that evil AJ. But I appreciate LA Knight not getting pinned.
The cool thing is about AJ Styles, and that will be the last thing I mentioned on this match. The cool thing that I seen is AJ still came out trying to be cool with the fans.
Yes.
He came out and tried smiling. He tried so hard. He was excited.
What do you think is next for AJ?
When I look at SmackDown, I think the story with the OC needs to continue on.
Yeah.
I think they need to tell that. And I think you can offer Carl Anderson up to be like, hey, I need to get my friend back.
Yeah.
Kind of like Christopher Daniels at the time, if you remember when he made this transition. it was one of his best friends who was like, trying to tear him down at that time. But I think if you want to get your friend back, there's no better person than maybe like a Luke Gallows or
No.
and they don't get a lot of time. You know what I mean? On
Mhm.
television. It's just very here and there,
Backstage segments.
backstage segments more or the less. And I do believe that those guys are the perfect place for that. You can go the LA Knight route right now. You can do something at Elimination Chamber, but I really think it comes down to the OC and telling a story with the OC.
Can I ask you, what do you think is more ideal? Would you rather see AJ revert back to a babyface, or would you rather see WWE go all in
Go
with
all in.
AJ being heel?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather see OC, including Mia Yim, be included in that?
As a heel?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Heel group.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
here's my issue.
Okay.
Let me explain that. The reason why I ask is because I have an issue with this. SmackDown has the Final Testament, which it's going to get over. Clearly, it's starting to get reactions. People are enjoying it. You have the Bloodline. You have Damage Control. You have a lot of heel factions.
Yeah.
And I feel like the OC need to be heel. And I feel like they need to, as a group with Mia Yim, be heel. On SmackDown, you have the Pride, which is Bobby Lashley's group. And then you have LWO. And then you have Legado del Fantasma. Legado del Fantasma is a heel group.
A lot of groups.
But which I love. I love it. I would love to see WWE do this story because AJ has, Mia Yim has kind of been getting disregarded by AJ on TV. I would love to see them all come together, form a super heel group.
Yeah.
And the first target would be the LWO. And I want to see Mia Yim and Zelina Vega, AJ, and I mean, you could do Carlito. It depends, right? If it's Andrade, if Andrade joins, then you can do that too.
Count me in for Andrade joining.
Yeah, like there's a lot of things they can do, but I want to see them go all in on the heel characters because AJ getting pinned was cool.
Yeah. WWE's finally starting to find that little like pace of like, hey, we're finding like this good common denominator of heels and good guys, and then you got somebody like CM Punk right now who is very much a tweener, maybe even Drew McIntyre. You can
argue both, right?
You can. So it makes a lot of sense that like all of these groups are coming together. One's heel, one's good. WWE is starting to find a rhythm.
Yeah.
And the rhythm's working for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I love that idea of AJ going with the OC, but also at the same time, I also love the idea because I love what TNA did with AJ Styles with the Lone Wolf character, where he was literally just that.
Yeah.
And he stood away from everybody, and then obviously eventually went on. Like I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but if you want to talk about a story failing and that can end in failure, it's AJ Styles.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about a story that we'll talk about if Cody wins the Rumble and you want to talk, that's a story that can end in failure because it's built off failure.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm going to say about that.
100%. The only other point that I had to make was to tie it into the Men's Royal Rumble. Very clear, Michael Cole on commentary. I don't know if he said Paul Heyman, what inning are we in? But he said something along the lines, Roman Reigns or something like that. What inning are we in?
That was at the end, wasn't it?
It was at the very end. That's when Cody, instead of pointing at WrestleMania, he pointed to Roman or whatever. I just wanted to kind of throw this out there. I really appreciate WWE revisiting small details that maybe WWE fans might have forgotten.
Right.
And I appreciate the things that are being acknowledged because with LA Knight, one thing that was really dope about this Fatal 4-Way match was when LA Knight almost pins Roman, or AJ almost pins Roman, or Randy almost pins Roman, they kind of take your disbelief out. Like they kind of make you believe, oh shit, like they could swerve you, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that because we know Triple H is staying on par with the story, with the vision of what he wants to get, but he's willing to fuck with you a little bit.
Yep.
And I swear, I'm telling you, I'm noticing it a lot of times. It's the same reason why I told you before. Fake stories are getting planted about who could potentially show up, who could take a main event, who could take this. Yep. Everything that WWE is doing is very much on purpose, very much so. And I appreciate it on this match where
I didn't like the solo stuff because it didn't really tie into the finish necessarily.
Right.
It's the same thing. Roman constantly needs the bloodline.
Yeah.
I feel like this was exactly what it needed to be, and I'm glad it didn't main event because at the end of the day, the bigger story, the bigger picture is Cody. Now, shout out to the fact that LA Knight didn't get pinned. Shout out to the fact that Randy Orton didn't get pinned because those would be two really fun feuds.
Mm-hmm.
Or whether it's Seth, Drew, Punk, Cody, whatever it may be.
They made them look important.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that leads us to our final match that I want to talk about. Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul. And I saved this one for last because it is what it is.
Yep.
It was what it was supposed to be.
100%.
I am very much on record of telling people I do not like DQ finishes unless there is a purpose or a reason.
We talked about this.
Brother, I am shocked by how much I loved this finish.
And what did I say? I'm sorry if I'm boosting my own head up a little bit here, but my two guys popped out that I knew would.
Grayson Waller and Fury. And it looks like without them necessarily
saying it.
Yeah, they came to the aid of Logan Paul, which I appreciate because based on our thing,
Yep.
Prediction show. But I want to say this, bro. I want to say this.
Go ahead.
Finish was shockingly really good.
No dumb ref.
Wrestling refs are the worst in the world, which is pretty fucking hard to compete with the NFL and the NBA because those refs suck. But wrestling refs, I don't care the company. It's every company. Every company. Every company. The ref doesn't see it. The ref doesn't see it. They made me really believe Kevin Owens was going to win.
100%.
And the ref stops the count because he sees the brass knuckles on Kevin Owens.
It was chef's kiss.
I didn't have much to specifically talk about here, which is why I kept it till the end.
Mm-hmm.
But Logan Paul belongs in WWE. He hit a very nice buckshot lariat. He is very good at selling. He's very good with timing. Kevin Owens, and you know, here's the thing too. Kevin Owens just deserves to have a singles match on pay-per-views. Like he deserves that. I love the fact it's the small stuff, but I love the fact that they have a great match. Kevin Owens gets caught with the brass knuckles as he's going for the pin.
Yeah.
DQ. Kind of anticlimactic when you call for the DQ.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens leaves the ring. He comes back in, beats the shit out of Logan Paul, hits him with the power bomb or whatever, you know, hits him on the commentary table. They destroy it. And then when he's walking out, he's like dapping up fans and shit. And he's kind of like, that sucks. But it's, you know, it was just a really cool moment to see Kevin Owens. Like, yeah, he lost the match, but at least he got to beat Logan Paul's ass after. And look, people will have their personal opinions on Logan Paul based on, you know, his history with like the YouTube scandal and stuff. And I get it. And I'm not here to judge the performer from the controversies around him. But I will judge Logan Paul as a WWE superstar. And he is very good. And this is a tough thing, right? Because we talked about our prediction show. Like, yeah, Logan Paul's going to win. There'll be some shenanigans.
Right.
I didn't see it happening this way. And
no, not literally the ref looking directly at Kevin Owens' hand.
The camera production was really good too because it was
Perfect.
like clear.
Yeah.
But I will say this finish got me excited because what did I predict before? If my prediction comes true, LA Knight versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be very, very satisfying if that prediction comes true and Logan Paul tries to cheat and LA Knight beats him.
Yep.
That moment cannot happen without this moment. And again, long-term vision, long-term planning. If Triple H is planning that U.S. Championship match for LA Knight, this stuff is not happening on accident. Very, very good stuff. Very fun match. Very good match between the two. They're very good. But it wasn't like, oh, we got to talk about this, this, and this. It really came down to the finish and the post-match stuff, which I appreciated. And obviously Logan Paul deserves his praise because
absolutely.
And look, he got blessed with a great dance partner.
He did, but he's been blessed with a lot of great dance partners. And it's hard to say if you're in the WWE if you're not a good dance partner.
But at the same time, too, Kevin Owens, like
he's definitely one of the best guys you could work with.
100%. And that was,
Logan Paul, I know he made a video and said that, it's time to start taking this serious, which gets me really excited for him. So hopefully we'll see him more on our TV screens now.
Full-time deal. He re-signed with the company.
Yep.
And I look forward to seeing what WWE looks like right now. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but obviously this was a very, very crazy, hectic week in wrestling. And I just want to acknowledge that, things are going to change.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a new WWE soon.
I feel like for the last year and a half, we've gotten a glimpse of what it could be. I feel like there's still so much that has to be done. But if you're asking me, did I enjoy the Royal Rumble 2024 compared to last year? This pay-per-view smoked last year's.
Out of the water.
And if you're asking me, did I think this women's Royal Rumble match completely changed my perception? It did. Because everybody looked good. And if you're asking me, do I value mid-card titles in WWE? My answer is going to be, look at Gunther. Every champion who's ever walked into the Royal Rumble, they throw their belt on the ground before they enter. Gunther goes into the Royal Rumble and hands it to the ref. It's the small things.
Oh, yeah, that's fire.
Respect.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you why this is the greatest Royal Rumble? Or maybe not the greatest, but better than last year. Yeah. For me, it was CM Punk and what he said. Yeah. And I really think it goes a long way when you really look at the bigger picture. I didn't come all this way to lose to Dusty's kid.
Yeah.
You ask me, I think that's WWE telling you, hey, we got a lot to tell here.
Yeah.
Very fun stuff. Very good.
Fun pay-per-view, man. Survivor Series was great. Triple H was in his bag then, and he's in his bag today. And
he'll be in his bag next month. At 5 a.m.
I'm geeked. Elimination Chamber, it's going to be very, very fun. And John Kenny says, Triple H says he hates the terminology of new WWE because it negates everything that has happened before. He loves the history and wants to build on that. And I understand.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the media scrum. I'll watch the media scrum after this live stream.
But even regardless, whether I mean, of course you want to build on the history because you understand the history of the belts. You understand the history of the people. My bad for cutting you off, Ango.
No, you're good. That's what it is, though. You respect history while doing things differently. And look at the presentation. Lee Fitting came from ESPN, came to WWE, and it's just a completely different feel. It feels like, these people, like everything just feels important.
Those camera cuts. Like the aerial shots coming down all the time. Yeah. Those were cool little plays. I mean, I'm not going to touch too much on them, but they're just little good feeling things that I was like, oh shit, that feels cool.
It's nice to watch a WWE pay-per-view for 4 hours, guys and girls in the chat. Let me tell you, my biggest complaint about WWE, go back. We have the old videos to prove it. The old pay-per-views that I would watch, or the old episodes of Raw and SmackDown where I'd be like, it's just too long, pace is too long, too many matches. It's just like, you could have done without this, you could have done without that. 4 matches on this card, all 4 matches accomplished exactly what they were supposed to.
Yep.
More people walked out of this pay-per-view looking better than they walked in. And that's awesome.
And that's all that matters.
With that being said, my friends, it is 2:20 in the morning, live on YouTube. WWE Royal Rumble post show. Enjoyed the pay-per-view. I love talking about the things I liked and talking about the things I disliked. And I like having this conversation with Billy TKO. So if you guys aren't subscribed to him, make sure you go and click subscribe to him at youtube.com/Billy TKO.
My man.
And ladies and gentlemen, to spend almost 3 hours with us post WWE Royal Rumble, it is greatly appreciated.
Outstanding.
And for those who dropped a super chat or became a member or anything like that, guys, I greatly appreciate it. Now it is time to call it a night, and I'll be back for Monday Night Raw. So,
yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thank you for stopping by. This is the Ango Show. Peace.
Peace.